Hello! You are listening to the Mantic Universe podcast. I'm Chris, and as ever, I'm joined by my good friend Clem.
Hi, everybody. It's been a long time.
It has been a long time, Clem. No Mark this month. So, Mark, it's that time of the year for Mark. So, bless him, he's going to the office on Sundays, which just doesn't seem fair, does it?
You got to do what you got to do, you know, like between work and parenting, and sometimes talking about toy soldiers with good friends comes after. And we're sad and we miss him, but we understand also. So we'll see you next time.
And we've pushed it back a couple of times, dear listener. But it's Clem, I think it's easy. Once you start pushing deadlines, it's easy for them to keep slipping, isn't it, to be honest? So
yeah, no, it's a dangerous slope to be on. But I mean, to be fair, it was summer. Or it still is summer. Is it? Yeah. So,
very
you know,
much so.
Everyone's busy, everyone's traveling, everyone's doing something else. And yeah, but we're here and we're back.
And Clem, we are pushed for time. And I said that record timing this month. So
right before we even said anything,
yeah,
we're already sorry.
Started. So we're already running. What do we reckon, Clem? Nearly two. We're running roughly 2 hours later, which is normally late anyway. It's going to be an early start for Monday tomorrow. So we're just going to, good friends talking about toy soldiers. We're back to basics. We've gone back 2 years. It's just us. Yeah. And we just go along with it. But I no longer have that feeling. When we started, for maybe the first 6 months, I felt like if I stop talking, I'm going to explode.
Well, you haven't exploded. Maybe you haven't stopped talking. Maybe that's why. If I were you, I still wouldn't, you know. That would be quite messy.
Give it a 10 fate. Yeah, absolutely right, buddy. Yeah, absolutely. So you're in luck, dear listener. I will keep talking. So, Clem, so we're going to do basically a normal show this month, but just keep thinking, right? So
that's the plan, at least. Mantic news. There's not much new, right?
Oh, no, I don't think Mantic are busy at all. So let's talk through, buddy. I'll talk through. Yeah, let's do one little introduction. I always get wrong. So first is welcome on the menu. That's what we're doing now, dear listener. Our introduction. So then we're going to do Warpath, Firefight and Dead Zone latest news. Our Panethor Kings of War. Panelor, I think actually, sorry, dear listener, we Panelor is really important, and we keep pushing back on it. So
we'll do Panelor or like a similar lore episode as with guest stars from the Mantic Lore podcast, right? We've recorded a guest episode with them. You should go and check it out, by the way. And they will come on a MUP short, and we'll talk about lore and so on and so forth. So I think it's a good excuse to skip it for today, Chris.
That's you've saved us there, buddy. But in fairness, that was talking about lore that didn't require any preparation. So that was ideal for us, right?
I mean, it's MUP style. They knew who to invite to get what they got. But it was fun. It was a good episode. We had a good time doing the chat. So yeah, no, I think you guys should go and give it a listen.
Go and check it out. Yeah, the Mantalore podcast on all good podcast providers, and presumably some bad ones too. Super. Yeah, right. Fantastic. We've then got a couple of listener questions. And then topic of the month, let's do a really quick topic of the month, something that's come up for me in the last couple of months, since the last MUP monthly, and I'm calling it Standing on Other People's Toes. I just want to hear what Clem has to say about this, and maybe what the dear listener has to say. Very interested for the feedback. And yeah, there we go, Clem. We made it through the intro.
Yeah.
Congratulations, us.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll still be a full episode. So yeah, let's get started. So yeah. News. When's the last time we talked about this? Because I feel like I've seen so much stuff going on, you know, on the Mantic YouTube channel, on the newsletters, on Facebook here and there. It's been a while since we talked about all this stuff.
It's been a while, and it's a chicken and egg situation as well, because we've been, as we sort of alluded to, we've been super busy. It's been the summer. We've had holidays at different times. We're all kind of on different schedules, and I feel like I haven't had the time to just keep an eye on things. So I haven't been, reading the newsletter or doing the basics. And I feel like all this stuff has kind of passed me by, but there has been loads of stuff. So there's been Worms has released, I believe.
Yeah, so the Kickstarter pledges are about to arrive. Like they've posted pictures with pallets full of boxes. There was the Dead Zone Kickstarter campaign. That was a reasonably quick one. I was on My Mini Factory, if I'm not mistaken. So for custom teams for Dead Zone, and also pretty exciting the STL for terrain bits. I think as a push to recruit new players from New Horizons, kind of like what they've tried to do with Armada. And I think it makes sense, in advance before Halo comes out, to have the rules. I think the rules were also for free on the companion whole summer. They might still be at the moment. I mean, I have a full subscription, so I don't really necessarily see it, but I think I read that in the newsletter. And I think it's a good move, like give a free taste for the rules, and show off what you have and make it accessible to different populations. I think is how Mantic can keep going on a good path. So yeah, pretty cool.
You can say what you like about them, but I really like how they've been trying a lot of different things and new things. They've been really, they're really trying, right? They're really trying to get interest, and I really like that.
Yeah, I mean, so to me, it's some part of it is interesting, and it's great because you can imagine there's a bit of something for everyone in there. You could also argue against it, right? Like it's kind of a worry when you have not just 2 or 3 systems, and you try to just have 6, 7, 8 systems or whatever. Like another way to look at it is like, does every single gaming company need to have a rank and flank fantasy game, and then a mass battle sci-fi game, and then a skirmish fantasy, and then a skirmish this, and then one with ships and one with that, and something and so on. I don't know. I mean, I think there's no perfect solution to it, and I'm happy that we have opportunities to play different things. It kind of makes my life harder because Dead Zone is a great game, Armada is a great game, but I just find myself with not enough time to play them, and so part of it is a bit frustrating. I guess it's really just a luxury of choice, right? Like I could play them if I wanted to, or like if people in my gaming group decided, hey, why don't we play a few games of this? Like that's how I feel these days. Let's just jump into that one. I would probably just follow and play some games and be very happy with it. So it's just like we have so many options that we can't eat all of them. So it's really a weird thing to complain about. But at the same time, I could also see why maybe some people would say, hey, instead of releasing, I don't know, 20 new sprues a year for 5 different systems, meaning every system gets 4 sprues. If you did that for 2 systems, we would get 10 sprues in a year for those 2 systems. Whatever, I don't know. Anyway, yes, I went on a tangent. Doesn't look so good for 2 hours, huh?
It's not looking good for 2 hours. It's very much kind of, are we apologising for going on tangents? I just thought that was up. I thought that was the whole podcast was just
that's
tangents.
The plan. Yeah, you're right.
Tangents on tangents. Right. And the other thing I would add to that, buddy, though, is just I rather like Mantic having a couple of strong games, at least for the simple reason. I mean, a great example, right, is War Machine Hordes, right? Privateer Press. At one point, they were literally rivaling 40k, which is mad to think about now, but they really were, in terms of sales and players, yep, etc. They were up there with the, flying close to the sun, and rightly or wrongly, they made some decisions which upset a lot of players. 40k got better again, and for whatever reason, they
just exploded.
They tanked. Yeah. They exploded, and if you've only got one game with what that brings you significant revenue and that tanks, you're then scrabbling to either fix it or do something else.
No, that's true. I agree. I think we've talked about it, and you're completely right there. It gives Mantic more freedom to not have all of its egg in the same basket. And if by having a strong Firefight, a strong Dead Zone, a strong Kings of War, and hopefully soon strong Epic Warpath, and so on and so forth, it gives them some resources to also experiment with random side stuff that is also pretty cool and pretty interesting, and also makes sure that they don't disappear as a company in 5 years or 2 years or whatever. Then I'm all for it. Like it sounds like a smart and sound business decision, and yeah, and at least it's not a business decision against us, the players. It's not like Games Workshop saying, "Oh, we've released Primaris Marines 5 years ago, or whatever. We need the improved new Primaris so that people buy yet another Space Marine army."
Now with extra skulls.
Right. Anyway, we said no GW bashing, and yet here.
Did we though?
We haven't.
That's a long time. But I feel like we've broken that so many times now.
That's fine. It compensates.
Possibly your favourite game. But yes, come on, let's just wildly speculate. We have no insider information on this. If you were to guess, Clem, as to the percentage of revenue Mantic get from their sci-fi games, so Firefight and Dead Zone versus Kings of War, I would randomly guess that Kings of War does 80% and the sci-fi stuff does 20%. What do you think?
That's a good question. I would have given it more credit, like the sci-fi stuff, more like a third versus 2/3 for Kings of War, basically. Maybe you're right. I think it might depend on the market as well, because I have the impression that not all areas or like not all markets behave the same in regards to buying models and buying rules and so on. I think you could also look at it from another perspective, which is the current core fandom, like Mantic fandom people, like how many Kings of War armies do they already have? And what are the chances that they will buy a 4th, 5th, or 6th, 7th army versus a first firefight army or a second firefight army? So
again, sorry, just to interrupt you there, buddy, and as well, rightly or wrongly, Kings of War is seen by a lot of people as models agnostic. So people might be playing a Mantic and might not be seeing the revenue. Whereas the Mantic sci-fi stuff, that's not the case, right? There's not an expectations to proxy models, although people do, but it doesn't quite have that same proxy models aesthetic.
I think it's a different ball game there. And to be fair, the ranges are a lot more recent and fuller in Firefight and Dead Zone than they are in Kings of War. Although obviously they've been releasing tons of stuff for Kings of War, so they're clearly catching up there. But yeah, no, I don't know. It's a good question. I guess some of it is like business secrets, and we'll never really know about it. But just when I go through my own local gaming store, just the shelf space is more 1/3, 2/3. And I'm not saying shelf space necessarily equates to sales, but there is kind of an indication there.
I think so, buddy. Yeah. No worries. I'm off to Clash of Kings next month. So I'm going to, when no one's looking, I'm going to, well, we basically did this last year, right? I was wandering around Ronnie's office last year, uninvited. So I'm just going to, try and guess his password. Dwarf 123. I don't know. What else might it be?
Password? What is a password? You just press enter and then... I thought the password is a bottle of rum and then, hey, Ronnie, what's up? What's the secret plan? What's the secret sauce? Not anymore. But yeah, no, I'm curious about it. But I think they've been doing great. Like they've been growing the team. They're working on so much stuff. I'm expecting upcoming Clash of King book to be huge. I'm obviously a Force of the Abyss player, so I'm also very excited about this. We don't have any news about it. Like we're just like you guys, excited and waiting for it. I think some of you guys are probably playtesters and you already have the profiles and everything. We don't. Yeah, we're just normal people,
Oh, the other thing. Oh, well, I'm not sure I'd call it necessarily, Clem. In the broad definition.
I'm kind of bragging here, right?
Yeah, right. Putting unreasonable expectations on us. We're normal. Clem said it. And the other thing I suppose I'll throw in there is I think the starter packs, like the test packs for Halo, running test games. I think they're running a little bit late, but I think we're expecting them, and I'm hoping to get one. Although I bought all the stuff anyway, but
Right.
So when I get that, I will paint that up as quick as I can and just run some test games, because obviously there's a responsibility there. I've got loads of other Mantic stuff going, but I have asked for a test case, so test pack. So of course I'll take the ability seriously.
No, and I think it's should be reasonably easy to get a model painted, right? Like that's kind of like what those models are for. Be accessible to beginners and new players. So I've no doubt you can get them done very quickly and very reasonably well.
do some edge highlighting. Oh, and the other thing I think I wanted to mention as well, Clem, was that I don't know how much it'll impact Mantic, but the Halo TV show has been cancelled after 2 series. It was kind of mixed reviews.
All right. Yeah, I haven't watched it, but I think, again, it's just a completely different size of market. And so even if they capture a few percent of people who watch the show, people who played the game, it'll be a massive, massive, massive thing for them. So it's just a completely different order of magnitude in terms of reach and audience. And so whatever happens, I mean, to right now the license outside, I think it can't be bad for that bad for them. The only worry for me when you see a license game like this is how expensive is it for them. And so I guess they don't really make too much money on this, and it's more image and broadening their audience type of operation. Although I hope they're not losing money on it. Like they have to pay the bills and so on.
I think they're making good money on Halo, definitely, buddy.
Yeah. But I mean, it all depends on how much they have to pay in license. But still, no, I think it's going to be good for them.
I would hope, obviously I don't know, but I would hope that Ronnie's got enough experience of doing these contracts, contracts with big companies. Yeah. And, particularly if you look at Riverhorse as well, which they've just acquired, they have so much experience with dealing with, massive brands. So I'm sure they know how to play the game.
No, absolutely. No, I'm not too worried about that. I'm just saying it's a different type of business. But to me, it kind of goes in, again, it's a healthy sign to see them diversifying. Also because it seems like they are diversifying, to build for the future, not like as a panic mode. Oh shit, Kings of War doesn't sell anymore. We need to do something else. It's more, we're in a strong position. Let's build an even stronger position for tomorrow. And no, I think it's a very positive thing. And yeah, I mean, you also see it locally in our gaming groups. I think like we've seen tons of new games being released. There was the old world, obviously 6 months plus ago, and there were huge discussions everywhere. And I think we weren't entirely wrong about it, right? Like I don't feel like it's killed anything at all. Like quite the contrary, actually, for Kings of War. I mean, there's a new AOS that came out sometime this summer at some point. From what I understand, I didn't get it, didn't read too much about it because that's really not something I'm too much into. Like none of those models were very interesting to me because sometimes I would buy those starter just to, enjoy painting the models and, going through the rule book out of curiosity and maybe playing a game just to remind myself why I don't play more, But this time I didn't even go through that. So, but yeah, and I don't think any of this just impacts Kings of War or Mantic at large in a bad way. So, yeah. What do you think?
I think you're right, buddy. I think, obviously, when we did our episode talking about the old world, obviously we approached it from a position of love from Mantic and a position of optimism from Mantic. But I don't think anything we said was wild. And I think you're right. I think what we said was broadly right. I think probably the old world game is probably slightly better than I thought it would be, from not that I've played it, but from feedback I've had. I did try and go for a test game, and I was there for I forget how many hours, and we never got a game because people weren't organised, and they were still writing their lists, and it was all just disorganised. So I think I was there for 4-ish hours and never even rolled a dice. We never got there. So I was the only one that was actually organised to have their army painted and their list ready, and I just sat there and waited while people faffed for 4 hours, and I was like, I gotta go, guys.
Never a good sign when you show up for a demo and the person giving you the demo knows the rules or is less prepared than you are. It's like, okay. I mean, it doesn't say anything about the system itself, not necessarily, but it means my local group, are there people I want to hang out with? Exactly. I mean, life's too short to wait for someone to, write the list while you are at the shop. So I don't know.
Exactly, buddy. And this is why, we can play, something like Kings of War Ambush. I can play 3 games of that in an evening after work, Yeah. I mean,
and they would still be unpacking their old world army. Like that was a fun experience. I played, we did a gaming day some time ago where it was some Kings of War and some old world on another table. And it's very funny to see just the time spent on various parts of gaming. yeah, again, I agree with you. I think the old world is a lot better than I was expecting it to be. Like, I bought the rulebook. I haven't played the game yet, but I've read about it and looked into it, and it's been enjoyable. Like, it's a nostalgia thing, and that's it. That's exactly. It's very satisfying for me in that regard. Like, it doesn't eat up my gaming time because I don't have too much of that to begin with, and so I want to spend it on things that I think I will have a higher chance of enjoying, like having a good time with. And I'm not so sure, individual models and packing it and the list and how the rules work. But reading about it and seeing models and maybe watching, skimming through bat reps brought me joy, and that's great. I don't need more from it. But yeah, just to get back on what we were saying, although tons of other stuff is being released by other companies, I think Mantic is in a pretty good position and has been doing great stuff.
Actually, Clem, one thing I just want to add to that massive tangent that you just went on is that I think that's a really interesting point. And I think, obviously, we're big Mantic fans, right? But we're also, gamers in general. And I don't think there's anything wrong. And in fact, I think it's actually very healthy. For example, let's say you buy the new starter box for the new edition of 40K, the 10th edition, let's say, right? That comes out, you buy it. You don't necessarily intend to play the game, but you're just interested in it as a product and as an experience. And you might paint the models, have a flick through the book, and put it back on your shelf. Some people might say that is kind of a waste of money, but actually I'd say that's really healthy, because I think you are keeping an ear out. Well, we love Mantic, but things are moving all the time. Things are changing. We're changing as people. So actually, I think if you fancy that, just having a little look, I think it's very, very healthy. Have a look at the rules. Like, we're not, we are human beings who are able to change their mind on things, right? Given new information. So feel free to do it. And I think it's very healthy. And you go, because I did the same with Age of Sigmar 3rd edition with the big starter box. They made too many and they were selling it cheap. I got one, had a beautiful rule book in it, beautiful models. I read through it and I go, God, even I can tell this is janky as anything.
Hey everybody, this is Mike Rossi, Wingdissar's second best dwarf author, and you're listening to the Mantic Universe podcast.
This is Max McDougall saying, so much universe, so little time.
I'm glad I pay Mantic,
Yeah.
So
but you still had a lovely time going through the book, and there are pretty pictures and so on and so forth. And I bought the 9th edition starter, I think, like for 40K. That was the Necrons, I think, right? Is that the one?
I remember you telling me you did. Yeah.
And I painted it, like I bought it in the summer when they did the release, and by Christmas it was all painted. I think I might have played one game of Kill Team with the Space Marines in that box, and that's it. No, I played a one-page rule with those models as well, a little bit, and that's it. But I had a great time, and for the price of the starter and the number of evenings I spent painting them, I wouldn't say it's a poor money spent, And yes, we love Mantic stuff, but it's not like a blind love, or in a way, it kind of makes it even stronger, when you get all the rule sets and read them and like, yeah, well, I think I'll stick to Kings of War. It's not like that's my game, that's my identity, so that's what I do. No, I've looked elsewhere, and this is the one I pick. I think it's very healthy. So yeah, I agree with you.
Completely right, buddy. Absolutely right. Super. So we've got a few more bits of news to mention, Clem. So the Epic Warpath Pledge Manager / late pledges, is that still open? I've done my bit, so
I think so. I think it was till early September or something. I've done mine quite some time ago, and I don't want to go back there because I'm worried I will spend more money on it. I've already spent quite a lot.
Easy to do.
Yeah, I have play testing stuff, so I'm also I've been doing stuff with this. But anyway, they've published also like concept art and previews and faction infos, and yeah, they've been publishing content for Epic Warpath lately, and it's also pretty cool. I think otherwise news-wise, we've been messing around for half an hour now. big thing is the summer of sci-fi. I think we haven't said the word in 30 minutes.
No,
we can get
but
there
actually,
now.
as professional as we are, I think this makes perfect sense because our next section is our Warpath Firefighting Dead Zone section. So, saving the best for last makes sense.
Yeah, sounds like
We've
a
been doing
reasonable
this for
thing.
long enough now. It's a segue, they call it. Yeah.
So, I guess we can start with you having played an excellent game of Antares.
Yeah, sorry, it's right. Put that in the notes. I've played some brilliant games of Antares. How long have
I've seen
got?
pictures.
To talk about Antares?
Lovely stuff.
Loving it, buddy. Loving it. I can't find I bought another Algarin army to paint them up green so they could be the rebels for the story for the weekend campaign I'm desperate to do. I don't know where I put those models, Clem. I really don't know where they are. I found other boxes of Algarin, but it's not the ones I was thinking of. So yeah, that's my job this week when I have some free time, is just searching through the thousands of euros of models that I just have sitting in their boxes that I bought.
I know the feeling.
Scary stuff.
Yeah, I've been moving everything in boxes to do renovation in my hobby room. So I know the feeling. But I mean, they're rebels, right? Like they've infiltrated somewhere and they're hard to find. That's on point.
They're persistent. Yeah, absolutely. But come on. While we're mentioning Antares, yes, I've played a couple of really great games with, and also Dread. Played a lot of Dread with Caleb, and we're going to do a little 3-game campaign of Dread. That's a great game as well. Very similar to Antares rule-wise, but more skirmishy. But boy, can I make some great-looking tables with all my sci-fi terrain I use for Mantic Games. But I'll just give us a little shout out now, Clem. Clem's been on a couple of episodes, but he hasn't actually done any Antares yet, so he's kind of stepped back for the time being. We make a side hustle podcast called Beyond the Mates of Antares, which is available wherever you're listening to this, dear listener. And I actually put out a couple of quick episodes. One was just literally 15 minutes after me and Caleb played Dread for the first time, and the other was just a standard episode. What I've had to do, because it's Antares, it's not dead. I would say it's on life support, is how I would explain the situation with Antares, which is actually
it's a niche game
more
with
appealing as a gamer. Sounds.
Yeah, dedicated audience. It's great. Very much not dead.
Yeah, it's very much not dead while people are still playing it, and all the rules and all the there's an app which is all of it is totally free online. All the rules, all the everything. But the issue with a game that's on life support is that people tends to be one of several games they play, right? So, people might play Conquest and also play Antares from time to time. But what that generally means is when you're making a podcast, you need stuff to talk about, right, Clem? Like, I've painted some models this month. I've built some models. I've played some games. And if people aren't doing stuff, it's hard to make a pod. So we had a situation where we had a fantastic group, including Clem, a really great group, but people weren't really doing Antares stuff. So
it's a lot slower.
You
can't have a monthly episode for it because it might very well be that's the past months you haven't touched any of it at all. That's kind of the risk.
I mean, I most certainly have, but yes, absolutely, Clem. So what I basically did was on the Facebook group, I went on a recruitment drive for people. So it was a bit like, I liken it to being in a heist movie, and I don't like heist movies at all. But like the first 30% of a heist movie is the leader of the gang hiring their crew, going around the world going, hey, I need you for a job, and then getting them to join the crew. It's been a little bit like that with getting new Antares play. And one guy we've got, Nick, who's a lovely chap. He's absolutely brand new to Antares, and he didn't intend to, but he's painted his models very much like Buzz Lightyear. Which,
nice.
And they look amazing.
I've seen pictures. Pictures. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But actually, I didn't really notice it. But once you mentioned it, I can't unsee it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I've just played a couple of brilliant games with Giacomo. Just and the the scenarios tend to be very thematic. So the last one we played was there were three long distance probes for the Concorde, which had gone haywire, and so basically we had to get an infantry unit into contact with it, hack it, and then take it off the board. Except it would shoot. It had a really nasty plasma support cannon on it, and it would shoot and move at random. So every turn we'd like roll the dice, and it randomly moves so many inches in a random direction, and it was hilarious. Like of course it's not balanced at all, but we're not trying to make it, just fun. Yeah. Exactly. But the thing about Giacomo, he's a really good player, but like I keep inexplicably winning, and he's new. And it's getting to the point, the last game, it started really badly for me. And I was like, okay, I'm glad Giacomo's going to win the game. And then it just swung back horribly for me. And I ended up winning the game by quite a large margin. It's like, I don't want to let him win. Of course, that's not what I want to do. But it's weird when it's okay when you mostly win, but not, you don't want to always win, So
I know. Well, we're on a tangent of a tangent against MUP style.
Summer of sci-fi, Clem. Summer of sci-fi.
Yeah, we can talk about that later. You're right. Let's go back on track. Summer of sci-fi. Yeah, I mean, so we've talked already about the story for the Night Stalkers. Awesome stuff. Really cool way to present it. They've released a crap ton of like Matsudans and Asterian stuff. Like so many new sprues, so many new shiny toys.
Great looking models.
Yeah, really nice stuff. I got the 2-player starter set. I haven't assembled it because, well, time was a bit of an issue, but I think I was a bit misled in a way, or I was expecting to see, the conversion bits for the Night Stalkers on the vault. And so I thought, oh, great, yeah, I'm going to get the starter early July or whenever it was, late June, I don't remember. And so the month right after, we'll get a bunch of sci-fi Night Stalkers, right? And then it arrived, I was like, oh, yeah, okay, well, maybe they were a bit short on time and they wanted to do the Dead Zone stuff first. And I understand, but I'm sure in August they will bring them out. And in August there was something. I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll see if it's in September. And I guess in September it will probably still won't come. I'm not sure what the plan is there. So there was kind of a bit of a misunderstanding on my side of what to expect. And so in my head it was kind of like, oh sure, I'll do my sci-fi Night Stalkers as soon as I get the bits from the vault, because there are none in the 2-player starter set that I got. Yeah, and it's kind of I'm still waiting for it. So I don't know. Did you get the starter set as well, or?
I haven't. I will pick it up definitely at some point, buddy. I've got to say,
it is a great starter. Definitely.
Yeah, I think by far it's the best they've ever done. I mean, I'm always really impressed with those, but I think this is the best one they've done. But I've got a GCPS army and a massive plague army that I haven't started yet. So even I have to be a little bit sensible from time to time. But
I know someone who would take your GCPS.
Oh no, I'm doing them. It's happening, buddy. It's happening. But I would say, Clem, it may be the case. I mean, we're talking about this from absolute outsiders. We have no idea. Employees from Mantic likely scream at us as they're listening to this. But yeah. I mean, maybe it's just we don't understand the business. But I would have really liked to see Night Stalker stuff coming to the vault at the same time as they're hitting us with the big Night Stalker excitement train. Tying these things up together just makes a lot of sense to me. And maybe there's business reasons, and maybe we're stupid, and maybe we don't know what we're talking about. But these kinds of things, as a consumer, that would have been really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's kind of a dumb blocker, because I think what's going to happen is I will stop waiting for them on this one and just assemble the 750 points armies like the Asterians and the Plague from the starter that I got, and make kind of like demo armies or like it's a fun small side project because it's not so many models, right? So you can just pick a cool color scheme and just paint it over a few weeks, like a few evenings here and there, and then you're just done with it and then move on to something else. So I think I'll just have to jump both feet into it and just get this done. But anyway, we'll see. I sure hope that whenever they release the Forces of the Abyss this fall, we see Forces of the Abyss basically at the same time on the vaults. Because for me, it's kind of a marketing argument, right? Like the Forces, or in that case, the Night Stalkers is the latest hotness, or the Asterians is the latest hotness, And if you have STLs for them available, that's one more angle that you can bring people into it, right? Like you would show, or hey, you have a Vault subscription, but otherwise you don't really play Mantic Games too much. It's just like you're a 3D printing crackhead, and you get like a few very special models that they wanted to put in the Vault anyway, a few bits here and there, and then it might just push you over the edge to just get a few sprues and spends a bit more money on it, or get a bit more involved with it, or the other way around, like I did, right? Like you intended to buy the latest starter or couple of ambush boxes or whatever, and then immediately, because you have a Vault subscription, or immediately you see stuff on the Vault and you're tempted to just sign up for it if you haven't yet, and then you get a couple more special models to complete your ambush force for the latest faction, and so on and so forth. So again, I think it's a very strong and I would say unique proposition. Like I don't know many other companies that have exactly this type of release model. And so again, my hope is that they strongly rely on this or synchronize it a bit more, as you said.
I don't want to, I'm loath to sort of put my sort of business/work hat on, but I do often think of when I think about Mantic, I think about things like CRMs, and this is basically just a way of leveraging the customer data you have and using that really, really smartly. So exactly as you're saying, Clem, you could make a marketing campaign, an email marketing campaign that, let's say, for example, Night Stalkers is the new release. So you could target the people who bought 3D files recently and say, hey guys, you're obviously interested in the Night Stalkers models, maybe you're interested in playing our games. Hey, have a look at these hard plastics, and because you're a new customer, you've bought the files, we'll give you such and such discount or whatever, just to try and target those.
Yeah, I agree.
That subsect of your customers, to just tie the whole thing together.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Or in ambush box, put a QR code for one free STL model, like whichever random or one random bit that kind of goes well with this ambush box, just so that anyone who buys an ambush box ever is tempted to also look at the Vault. Like I found it very funny. I think it was on Fanatics. Might have been also Kings of War Fanatics, I meant, but might have been also on the Firefight Fanatics, like people saying, hey, I would like to find STLs for this type of thing, and where do you guys think I should look? And I said, well, why not the official model on the Mantic Vault? And it was like a new player, like a newcomer. Turns out it looks like they had never heard about it. And so they said, oh, wow, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. So like, okay, I mean, that's interesting, no?
Yeah, you're completely right, buddy. And I think about actually, like, let's say gambling, and thank goodness I didn't gamble, because me, I have a very addictive personality, so I stay away from that. Like, gambling, drink and drugs, I just don't do, because give me 2 weeks and I'll be homeless. But there is a reason that gambling, I mean, if you watch sports, there's gambling adverts all the time, right? They will throw free bets at you, free stuff at you for signing up, because they know once you've installed the app, you've had a free bet, you're going to be, who knows, many, many, many times more likely to become a paying customer than if they.
That's the saying, right? The first dose is always free.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. The first hit's free.
And I mean, while we're on the topic of marketing things, so we've done a MUP short about Argatoria, so the 10 mil fantasy game, blah, blah, and so it's made by a smaller company, like independent company, and so on and so forth, like even much tinier than Mantic. And one thing they do pretty well is they send a tons of small freebies and stuff whenever you order with them. And so there is a very clear incentive of ordering on their web store, because you get stuff that you won't get anywhere else. And so I think that part is an interesting thing. Like it always, gives you a small reward for buying there and not in any other location. Because I think for them, it makes more money, right? If there's no distributor in the middle.
This is Max McDougall saying, so much universe, so little time.
This is Andy from Mantic Games, and you're listening to the Mantic Universe podcast. So much universe, so little time.
Obviously, they keep more money. So it is a good thing for them, but you have to entice your audience and your customers to do that. Another thing that I think Mantic should do is, they've done the free booklet. Or you want to say something? Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, buddy. I'd just say, yes, I completely agree with you. And when the Spellcrow, the company behind that game, does it, it feels great to me. Like, it feels like a great deal. I feel really they're giving us something really cool, because it's, as you say, Clem, it's small things, but it's kind of significant things. It's cool stuff that you actually want. The downside to doing that kind of thing, though, is that you might burn the stores. And not having stores on side, it makes it very, very hard to build games. And sorry, buddy, carry on.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. That's probably a balance. But right now, I kind of resent when I have to order something on Mantic's website, because for me, it's more a hassle than anything else. They've changed a little bit, like the shipping terms, so it's not as bad as it used to be. But I basically have to pay full price all the time, whereas my local distributors in Germany, there's always, at least a bit of something. And so it kind of feels weird that it's a worse off thing for me to buy from Mantic than it is to buy somewhere else. And I understand maybe it's for them to support the local distributors, but I'm not 100% sure that's why. I don't know. I'm not saying I have a solution to this.
Do we have the solution to anything?
No, we're just complaining. That's great.
Just old man complaining late at night on a Sunday. But
isn't that what a podcast is about?
Yeah. Good. There was a line. I think it was one of the Spice Girls allegedly wrote, quote unquote, and their biography. And I remember them being on television selling the book, and they said something along the lines of, I've never read a book, but if I were to, this would be super interesting, which absolutely blew my mind. That you're just admitting on public television, I've never read a book. Who's ever read a book?
It's
but this person is 1,000 times more successful than I am. So, what do I know? Clem, hey, all this talk about, ordering from Mantic, this topic comes up, talking about moaning old men. This topic comes up on a future episode of MUP. There's going to be a MUP Shorts. So I sat down today near Cologne. I sat down with Manuel and our friend, hey Manuel, if you're listening, and Wolfgang, the legend. And we just talked, their gaming group, all things Mantic.
Nice. The
Privateer Poser Boys. Yeah, so that topic came up for sure. But that's great. Brexit obviously hasn't been kind. Brexit has, in many ways, Clem, not helped us. But yes. Without getting into politics, even with my sort of Mantic disc, even with my my cashback for running games, etc., all my hard work, it's still cheaper to probably, it works out better for me just to order stuff from a normal store in Germany than it does through Mantic, even with my discount. And that feels weird, right? I mean, I do still order stuff, but it's still, not different great prices.
I mean, I have to say, I'm glad that I can buy stuff in other stores, and now the situation is a lot better. Like stock-wise, they still don't necessarily have a full range, or some of the stuff just goes out of stock pretty quickly on the German stores, I'm talking. But it is a lot better now than it was, I think, 6 months ago or something like this. So congratulations to the Mantic employee working on this, because I've seen a concrete improvement on there. So yeah. The other thing I wanted to say quickly on the marketing front is Mantic now is doing the free booklet. So they've done the Kings of War one, obviously, that they distributed last year, Clash of Kings, and now they're doing the Command Protocol one. And I think it's great. Like, it's always good when you do a demo or when you want to bring in a new player to have something, anything like a token of, here, get a free bite of this. It's great. Take it home, take it with you. Like, it's a token of, we enjoy you being maybe interested in joining us playing this game, and here's a small something. So this is a good thing that they're doing that. I have the impression that they could be sending boxes of those to Pathfinders, because right now they give you one when you order on the web store or something like this, which is one way to do it. I'm not sure if that's the best way to get these booklets into as many hands as possible, or in the right hands. And so, to be honest, if I could buy them with my Mantic points, like the Pathfinder reward points that you get, I would happily do so. Like if there was like a Pathfinder box, I could buy a T-shirt and a few booklets and maybe a few sprues or whatever stuff they can throw in a box that I can have to just hand out and give away. Because I'm doing this with my own sprues, when I buy too many of those, and God knows that I do that on occasions, right? But I think this is another marketing angle that they could pursue.
Yeah, Clem, I think you're absolutely spot on, buddy. Wouldn't it be great if, let's say, I think those things, they do cost something. It's not like they print them for free. So I don't think they should just send them out by the thousand, because that doesn't make sense. But I think particularly the Pathfinders, they should just be, as a matter of course, should be saying to Pathfinders, hey, you're running Firefight demos. Here you go. Here's 10, give them out. Be generous with them. Leave one at the club, leave one in the shop, whatever. But Clem, I think that was a great idea of yours. I think, let's say if you order $200, £200 of stuff with us.
I'm Scott, aka Palette of War. Welcome to Mantic Universe Podcast, and check out my YouTube and Instagram.
What's your t-shirt size? Have a Mantic t-shirt. And then that person, like me, I cherish my Mantic t-shirt I got for being a Pathfinder. I love wearing that t-shirt. I feel like I earned it, And then I am walking around with a Mantic t-shirt on, being a walking billboard for Mantic, right?
Yeah, it's a win-win. Again, I think it's the best type of marketing there is, right? When your biggest fans are happy because they get kind of an exclusive sort of thing, and then you get some more exposure out of it because they walk around a gaming store or any gaming event with the t-shirt and so on. And again, I think so I've used some of my reward from doing demos and so on to buy more terrain for the club and stuff like this. But it's almost pointless. I mean, we almost had too much already. It's more, okay, when am I going to do this? I kind of feel bad buying models for myself for it. Like I don't know. I think if I could use some of these, or like, hey, you've done 3 events already, please have a box on us, or like, because you're right, they're not free. But the best thing that could happen to those booklets is to end up in the correct hands, right? Anyway, it is just a small idea in passing.
But let's say, for example, those ambush boxes would be perfect to give out to people, right? They're the hard plastic, so we know they don't cost too much to produce. And if you're running demos, and let's say you either roll the dice and randomize it, or you give someone a demo who just really loves it, gets really into it, you go, hey, I've got this one ambush box to give away today, and you're the person I want to give it to. That's going to have a huge impact on that person who's just trying the game, right? As you said, if you can give stuff away, and actually, whenever I run demos, I try and give stuff away, whether it's dice or Clem. I mean, you've made so much for me in terms of MDF. We call it the undo button for Kings of War. Obviously, the view,
angle,
widget thing we use, the angle widget thing, which I've been giving out your Berlin Club one for ages. I give out the Frankfurt, group now that you've kindly made for us. I think if you're a player and someone just gives you just a little something, it makes such a difference. It makes a world of difference, because it was, okay, this is a welcoming, friendly, generous-spirited, generous little group. Yeah. And I still remember when my friend Dennis Gate, we played a demo game of, I think it was Malifaux, and he just gave me these little plastic jewels to as markers, because I didn't back then I didn't have anything. It was probably literally 2 cents worth of, it was, in monetary terms, it was nothing. But I was so appreciative of that, just that gesture of, hey, you don't have that. Here you go, buddy. I've got you covered. Yeah,
I think that's a good.
You sit down with a stranger and they just do, and just a little act of kindness makes such a big difference.
Yeah, it does. All right, should we?
We're still not talking about sci-fi, Clem.
Yeah. So, did you play any sci-fi lately?
Hey, I tell you.
I mean, sorry. Mantic sci-fi, please.
Oh, right.
Not another 15 minutes of Antares.
And we're back again, Antares. Yeah, fair enough. The first 15 minutes was enough. Hey, Clem, so I went to near Cologne, in a beautiful beautiful little village overlooking the Rhine, where our good friend Manuel lives. I visited for the weekend, had a lovely time. So Saturday, we played a multiplayer game with his friend Florian, who they've had a game of Dead Zone. He's played a little bit of Kings of War. Florian, lovely chap. So we played Firefight, had a brilliant time, Clem, absolutely fantastic time. And then today, which is Sunday, we went to their gaming club, which is about 30 minutes drive away in St. Augustine, a town near Cologne. A lovely little club, the Privateer Poser Boys. Okay, I got it right this time. And Wolfgang was there, who was let's be honest, the most important person for Kings of War in Germany forever. And we've really missed him the last couple of years. GT organizer, exactly, Clem. And since he's taken a step back, to be honest, things have just not been the same since, right? Dear listener, please listen out to our upcoming MUP shorts for an interview with Wolfgang. His English is good, but he has the perfectly normal reaction that it's weird to be asked questions in English with a microphone under my nose, which is totally, I 100% understand him. And so we had Manuel on hand. He did fantastically, but we talk, Clem, but some people naturally don't really want it.
So I mean, in general, it's massive, I think, that Wolfgang is back in the German Mantic fold, active and doing stuff, and he's just one of the people that get stuff done, right? And it's unfortunately we've really felt the loss without him, so really glad he's back, and he's just a really cool guy as well, so that helps.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Saturday,
I think sorry, just wanted to say I think it's true.
No, go for it, buddy.
And it will be good to travel not too long distance to within Germany to go play Kings. I think it's a great thing to have the option to do so, and having Wolfgang back definitely helps with this. So yeah,
definitely, buddy. We'll have MUP shorts early September on the an interview with Wolfgang. So look forward to that, dear listener. But we talk a little bit about plans and COVID and how plans changed, and how things were growing in Germany, and then suddenly they weren't anymore. But we're back on a growth mindset, I think, which is really good. And I'm very disappointed at myself for using the expression growth mindset on the podcast. What have I become? So so anyway, Clem. So Saturday. So we played Firefight, and Manuel and I realised it was probably the first game of Firefight we'd both played since we both played Firefight together, which was about a year ago. So that's a bit disappointing. But we had a really cool game with a brand new player who I mentioned previously, really, really super nice guy. So we ended up playing 750 points of Asterians, which I lent to the new player, and 750 points of Forge Fathers against 1,500 points of Plague. And so it's two players against one player. And we played, Clem, do you remember our favourite, or my favourite objective, which is the capital H shape with the objectives you've got to steal? And if the one in the middle is worth 2 points, the one in your opponent's half of the board are worth 4 points. So we played that one, spoiler alert, Saturday and Sunday, because I think that's just a great scenario. I think it's brilliant because it forces people to move. The game on Saturday, we killed so much Plague turns 1 and 2, Clem. And Manuel had almost no shooting, but we killed so much stuff that I was actually thinking, oh God, I hope Manuel's actually enjoying himself, because this has been brutal. We took off, half his army. Brockers are really, really good at killing zombies. So, a big block of 30 zombies just melted against the Brockers. But
no question.
Manuel is a really cunning, canny player. And he completely turned it around and ended up winning the game pretty handily in the end. And he did it by, well, first of all, he'd been clever with the positioning of some of his, most absolutely scary units. So he still had his most important stuff on the board, even though a lot of his stuff was dead or re-dead, if it's Plague, I don't know. But anyway, we'd wiped off loads of stuff, but we hadn't taken off the key pieces. We weren't able to. So, when it counted, he absolutely smashed us, and we just didn't quite have enough units to we just our strength kind of ebbed away.
Yeah, I mean, you removed
game.
half of his army in model counts. You destroy 2 units of zombies, aka 200 points, and then he hit you with the rest or something. I mean, for me, Plague is always like a big monster delivery system, right? Like you have stuff around that keep the opponent busy, and then the big monsters make impact and just wipe stuff out.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I guess it's a bit like playing goblins, right? Where, the player thinks, oh, brilliant, I've killed a load of goblins, but hey, you haven't killed enough goblins.
Yeah, I mean,
I was talking with
a local player recently, and about painting hordes of goblins and so on. And it's like, yeah, when you paint them, it's a bit, you have to not think too much about how many points you're doing. That's another reason for me to not go for slow grow when you paint 250 points of miniatures or units per month, because that's 2 hordes of goblins. It's like you spend time painting maybe 80 miniatures, probably less than that if you don't go full modern count, and at the end of the day you have 250 points. It's like, okay, great. How much time did I spend to do this? How much less do you have? Yeah. So versus you paint fire elementals in one evening, you do 1,000 points and that's it. So anyway, no, it's it could be misleading a little bit, but I think that's the strength of Plague. That's how it works from what little I understand of them.
So that was super fun, Clem, and very interesting. And it was Florian's first game, so he's excited to play more. I think he'd played some Dead Zone previously, so that's really good. So potentially a new player, and he's already bought some Mantic models, so that's great. And then the Sunday, we actually went to the club there, which is a super nice little club, really well organised, lovely terrain, really, new building and everything. And we met up with Wolfgang, and we ended up playing a 2-against-2 game of firefight, exactly the same scenario, same amount of points. But instead of 1,500 points of Plague, it was 750 points of Plague and 750 points of Rats, against exactly the same dwarves and elves. We had a lovely time. It was Wolfgang's very first game of firefight. I think he bought some when it came out, but hadn't actually got round to playing it. And we had a lovely old time. And pretty similar kind of situation, except this time, I think the mistake we made on the game on Saturdays, we kind of got sucked into fighting in the middle, which was we had a lot of terrain on the board, so it was a bit of a kill zone. Whereas this game, we didn't get sort of pressured into moving forward, and we just sort of absorbed we kind of took the hit, and the Brockers and the Kalishi kind of counter-attacked. And Manuel realised how scary the Brockers are, so he was deliberately taking them off on purpose. But it was a really, really fun game. And what I've forgotten about Firefight is I feel like every single turn you're desperately trying to solve a puzzle, and you don't necessarily have all the pieces to do it. But it feels like I really, really enjoy it. You're trying to solve something every single turn, whether it's right. I desperately need to get that enemy unit off of that point. It's also with the playing against the Plague and the Rats is also really interesting in as much as we actually want to hold back our best units till later to activate, because actually once you activate a unit, like for example our Asterian robot, once you activate that, it's kind of vulnerable. If you activate a big unit of 10 Brockers, sure, they'll kill something, but also then they can't countercharge, which is super, super powerful. So
I mean, they've changed stuff, in the command protocols. If they have the good keyword, I think it's defensible, you get Overwatch token, and you can also just activate them and spend just one action and then get Overwatch token or something like this, and you still get to countercharge, or like do not just countercharge but do assault reaction. So I think that's a new thing they've added for command protocol, and that is pretty
that sounds really cool.
Yes, because it really gives, I mean, it costs you something, right? It means you have to sacrifice one action to, keep the option for later. But it is otherwise pretty strong. Or like my Riot Troopers with GCPS, they have the keywords. So even if I activate them early in the round, they will always be able to countercharge when you charge them later, which is exactly what you want because they kick ass in melee. And I haven't looked at, for example, Marauders, but I think a few units like this probably have a similar situation where even if you activate them, they will be able to do an assault reaction. Yeah, they really did a great job with the command protocol. Like they've fine-tuned a few things here and there, removed problematic things, and added a ton of really cool stuff. So yeah, you just don't play this game enough. That's the main issue.
Yeah, we had 3 people try it, and they were all super, super impressed. And quite frankly, as were Manuel and I. I mean, Manuel kept going on about and quite rightly, and he's really into his game design, and he knows what he's talking about. And he was super, super impressed at the changes from Command Protocols. I mean, if I'm completely honest, I was really happy with the kind of, I'm going to do air quotes, first edition of Firefight. I know there was one way back when, but I don't really consider that the same game. I was happy with it when it released. I never find the janky stuff. I just, more Brockers.
There were a few things that
more of it somehow.
Yeah, there were a few things that I'm really glad they changed. It was still a very good game, very fun game, but now it's even better. I had a question: how do you do the 2 versus 2? Do you have like 1 activation per side, or 1 activation per human, or how does that go?
Yeah, so we kept our command points separate. We agreed because in the first game it was kind of Plague was 1 army. We agreed that inspiring works for, so like a hero, 45 of the heroes also inspiring the Asterians. But you could argue that either way. I don't really mind. I kind of prefer the idea it doesn't, but we just did that to make it kind of fair for both sides. So your command points are separate, and we did our coalition activates 1 unit, then yours do, to keep the flow. And if, for example, if I spent a command point to take the next turn, then I had to spend my command point and activate my unit, not my allies' unit. This is the way we kind of did it.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I think a 2 versus 2 is a good way to do demos in a way as well. Like, if you have at least 1 player who knows what's going on, or maybe 2 even, you could bring in beginners and have them in the thick of the action already and play a game. So I think having good options to make 2 versus 2 work is quite nice.
Yeah, that's exactly right, buddy. And of course, that's exactly what we did, and we've been doing that with Kings of War as well. And obviously Manuel was on the other side to me, and he's a super. He positions his units so cleverly so that he sort of maximizes cover and stuff like that. But I think it's always important as you're playing to ask your less experienced teammate, what do you think we should do? What are we trying to achieve, kind of thing? Not necessarily which unit should we activate because that's the most powerful, because they're not going to know that. But what should we be worried about? Which point should we be trying to get on? Just trying to ask them questions that they can be involved in and know. There's no point asking them more specific questions because they never played the game before. They're not going to know. But just make sure that you're involving them and you're not just taking all the actions for 2 factions and they're kind of rolling dice with you, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that makes complete sense.
And yeah, exactly. And it was quite funny actually, because we ran out of time because we were taking ages, and with 2 new players, of course, it slows the game down a lot. But it was really, we all had a fantastic time, and it was really funny because I had to leave, so I was like, thanks guys. And Manuel and Wolfgang basically said, okay, well, we've been talking and we've decided we've like, okay, well, why is it you think we would have played off this point, and it's sort of like, hang on a second guys, you think you would have killed my 6 drop troopers on your back point who have taken 0 wounds, are an absolute killing machine, and have an Iron Ancestor near them. You confident you're going to kill that with your 2 units? Maybe not. Okay,
maybe not, but still, I think.
Yeah. So they came in strong with their "we've won." Don't even ask questions. We've won. And then after discussing it with me, for another 2 minutes, they're like, "Okay, well, we've probably lost then, but still." But it really could have gone either way. I think the second game we probably would have won, and partly that's because we just learned lessons from the first game. So, for example, we had 2 of the Asterian skybikey thingies. and we flew them onto the middle point at the beginning of the game, which is great, but then they immediately get killed, whereas really you want to keep them alive so they can jump on one of those juicy 4 points spots at the back of the board when your opponent's army is completely knackered and most of it's dead, so they can't do anything about it, So
they also don't want to go back and try to get them.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it was honestly, we had so much fun, and it's just that kind of like, oh yeah, this is why we spend all this time and money and effort doing this. This is really fun,
Yeah, no, that's my experience anytime I get to play Firefight. So yeah, it is a good game, no question about that. So did you input your results for the global campaign?
So I tried to. Anything that seems to require my Vault password, I always seem to get confused, and it never seems to let me log in. So I always have issues.
Oh, that's.
I don't know whether it's probably me and my competence, but I'll try and I'll give it some time this weekend, Clem, and try and do it again.
Yeah, I haven't kept track.
What about you, buddy? What's your
the campaign? Yeah, well, I only got to play Firefight on UB. So it had also been quite some time since I last played, but UB is not the perfect environment for it. I mean, it works, and it allowed me to play with Marcus, who's just like different time zones away from me. So that's always, you can't complain too much, And so we played 1,000 points. I played my GCPS and tried some Forge Fathers, and I think the dice were kind of good to me, and also the GCPS just has superior firepower when it has a good general, without bragging. But no, really, really fun game. And every single time I play Firefight, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to play this game more often. So yeah, it's quite funny. And apart from that, I got the 2-player starter, like the Edge of Sanity starter. It's such great value, like really cool, brand new models. Well, the Night Stalkers not so much, but still they are very good sprues, very good models. I have not assembled them yet because I'm waiting on the vaults to deliver the bits. But yeah, no, it's otherwise trying to think. Firefight. I've looked into Epic Warpath, but I'm not sure if I can talk too much about that, right? The playtesting stuff. But yeah, and they've released also some concept art for Epic Warpath. Like, I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, but that's about it for my Warpath stuff.
Yeah, I do think that 2-player starter box, I've not picked it up yet because my Polish aim is absolutely shocking. I've got a full GCPS army to paint, including the tanks. I've got a massive plague army. It's 2 or even 3 of the old Mega Army boxes somewhere in the basement. I also have all of the sci-fi crazy boxes. So, I mean, I have a frankly preposterous amount. Oh, one thing I have started doing actually, Clem, is I painted my Marauders probably a couple of years ago now, and I was never super happy with I painted them kind of a blue scheme that I was never kind of mad about. But it was, it was quick and easy, so I just cranked it out. I have gone back and repainted a few squads and a few heroes worth with a kind of, the idea was kind of like a North Africa kind of desert theme with a bit of hazard stripes thrown in there because I love a hazard stripe. So I've started doing that. It does look better than the blue. Definitely I'm happier with it. I still don't love it though, Clem, and that's been the problem I've had with the Marauders. It's like when I get my Brockers on the table, I'm like, yeah, this is great. I just love it, and the Marauders, I think the army is brilliant. I don't know, I'm not sure what I've got to do to love the Marauders.
Sometimes I think it's a bit hard, but I definitely feel you on that one. Sometimes you build and paint an army and something just clicks and you're like, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. Like, I'm very happy with this. Like, sure, it's not box art or anything, but I'm really happy with these, and they're done, and I will have fun playing them. And sometimes it's like just it's a bit of a hassle to paint them, or to keep going. It's like there's some secret ingredient missing, and it's hard to pinpoint exactly what. And I just don't have a solution to this. But I know the feeling, but I don't have a solution except just do something else in the meantime. It is what it is.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned it a few times on the pod, but I think in the last kind of 6 months, I've genuinely got better at painting. And I think there's a few different reasons for that. I do take my time a lot more, and I have a lot less paint on the brush now. And I think those are the kind of the two main reasons, quite frankly.
That helps.
So I really have gone through a massive kick of, just not necessarily repainting things, but just going back and giving things another pass, right? Kind of just tidying things up and making them look a little bit nicer. And it does make a huge difference.
Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, if you feel like you've got something new in you, and you can go back to previous projects and add to it. Absolutely.
Yeah, that is super cool. People do say never go back to a painted mini, but I don't see why not, buddy. It's actually pretty quick to, once you get a bit better at painting, it's actually quite quick to make a big improvement. So, and actually, it kind of, I don't want to say it bothers me, but if I get models out that I painted 2 or 3 years ago, I don't really want to get them on the table, to be quite honest, because they look about 30% crappier than my more recent stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's a valid advice for beginners, because it's very easy to be dissatisfied with what you do and spend forever trying to improve a model and just not make much progress with it. And so it's kind of like a vicious circle. Like, you spend more time on just the same model over and over, you're not really making progress, or you're not happy, and so you keep spending time on those same models. Versus, if you really want to get better at painting, the only secret is to paint more. Like, keep doing it, keep practicing. And so I agree with you, going back to an old project, like something you've done some time ago. Once you feel like you've made progress, like, oh, now I legitimately think I can do these ones better because I've learned this technique or whatever, then sure, go for it. But if you finish a model and you're not happy with how it looks, and you try to go back to it and improve it, the chances of success of that are close to zero, because you're basically still the same painter. And so you will not make it a lot better. You will just waste more time on it and get frustrated. And so I think that ultimately what the painting advice is, like, never paint an old model. It's more, at some point, just move on and go do the next one. But yeah, it's it can be frustrating when you look at old armies, or like the first few models I've painted. It's like, I could do better now. It's kind of a waste. I don't know. I tend to just move on and do other armies instead. But it's a pain when you want to extend an existing army, though.
Yeah, Clem, I think that was fantastic advice, actually. And a good friend of mine locally, I think, very much has this issue where he's kind of stuck, and he wants the first models he paints, he wants them to be as good as the books are, and he's frustrated, and it bothers him they're not. And you're exactly right, Clem. You almost have to go away and go on this hobby journey of learning by making all the mistakes, and then come back to it once you've kind of leveled up. It's almost like playing an RPG or something, going back to a dungeon and grinding.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we've mentioned it several times on the pod, but there's this social experiment where you tell people, how is it, like 2 groups of people, one group, when they learn to do pottery, group A gets to do 10 pots and presents the best pots that you've done after that. But in a given amount of time. And group B, you can only present 1 pot, and but it has to be the best one ever, the best one that you have. And consistently, the group that does 10 pots gets both better volume, because they do 10 times more, and better quality. Like, after messing around with 9 of them, the 10th one, even if they make them a lot faster, is already a lot better, because you've done all the mistakes. You've trained your dexterity, whatever, like all of those things. Like, it's crafting, like it's an artistic endeavor, right? Like, so it really pays off to train.
Yes, it's artistic, Clem, but also it's technique, and you can practice technique, right? And
well, for me, that's what I meant. Like, it's not exactly, ethereal thing that is detached and it just comes out of your soul. So because you're a great human, the first time you touch something and make art, it will be amazing because your soul is great. Absolutely not. Like, people just grind at it, and then they get better, and then you get to express your soul better, maybe, but it goes through rigorous training on the actual techniques to do it. Anyway.
Exactly. If you want to be that guy and girl, one of the best painters in the world, that almost certainly takes a lot of talent plus practice. But if you want to get models, anyone can paint models up to a decent tabletop standard as long as they just, put the work in, right? It's not about talent, it's just about technique, right? Just learn the basic techniques, you'll be all right.
Yeah. Just go for it and do it. And again, it's a bit cruel as well, because it's hard to realize how much effort goes into doing box art, because you see pictures and it's like, oh yeah, well, I can see it's painted, right? Like, so I'm not stupid, I can paint as well. It's like, yeah, except like you don't have the 20 years of experience and 8 hours a day. Like, it's a job for the person who paints that, and so you're just on a completely different planet.
At that point as well, Clem, it's almost certainly they went to art school, and it's at that point I think you're thinking an awful lot less about colour and a lot more about light. So I think at that level it is a very different thing. But to just make a little model goblin look nice, you don't need that kind of talent. Hey, Clem, now we're talking about painting. Actually, one topic that came up, and I didn't bring it up, was new players mentioning how much better Mantic models are than their box art makes them look. That's a topic that just organically came up this weekend with new players. Interesting, no?
Yeah, I mean, we keep saying that. I think they've gone better. I have the impression that they've improved on the photography a bit, and like literally the Age of Sanity box art and like everything around the campaign. To me, it looks a lot better than it used to not so long ago, to be honest. There's probably still a margin for progression. I still want to see, fan-made, like show your Mantic army, and there's a gallery somewhere on the website or something like this. Because at some point, I also enjoy seeing many, many, many different paint jobs of the same models, because it always gives you a different understanding of the model. But yeah, no, it's true that I think one of the main challenges Mantic has when it wants to address the existing player base, like not just their customers, but like people who play other games and so on, is they need to get their miniatures into their hands, or like have these people see the miniatures in real life and realize, oh, it's actually a lot better than what I've heard. And there'll always be people who say, oh yeah, no, it's crap. Like I'd rather pay 3 times more and get GW models because obviously they're top of the line, whatever, which I don't fully agree with. But those people are not the ones we want to go after, right? It's not these ones you'll never convince. It's just people who might consider it and then look at the pictures, or like just have never seen miniatures in real life and just what they heard was that and not so good. These are the people you want to convince. So yeah, that's a challenge still.
Great point, Clem. Super. And I think we can skip, as great as Dead Zone is, I think we can skip over that pretty quick, right? I haven't played any Dead Zone.
Yeah, I haven't played any Dead Zone either. Haven't had much mind bandwidth to put into it. It's a bit sad because I wanted to give a try to the pre-made teams, because part of the concept sounds interesting, but I just didn't have time for it. So another episode.
Yeah, keep listening, dear listener. We will play some Dead Zone. It's such a good game, but like with Firefight, they're brilliant games that I really enjoy, but it's just competing for time. And obviously locally, we're on a massive growth spurt with Kings of War. So as much as I'd love to play those games locally, it's just it just makes sense to keep Kings of War at them, right? So yeah, Mantic Sci-Fi will get its day in the sun right here sooner or later. But
yeah, I'm sure. And speaking of Kings of War, what's up with your Panithor stuff?
Panithor, Kings of War. So this is a little while ago now, but I'm going through the notes. I've done it, but it feels like ages ago now. So I ran a gaming day at Quest Hub in Frankfurt, and I was there for 8 hours, Clem. And it was a lot of work. We ran a lot of, but it was kind of, I'd call it kind of a celebration of Kings of War, really. So I got people, the local players, to come and just have a game. So we, busier. And then I had a couple of friends with me basically the whole time. So I always had a wingman, which was really, really good. Finally gave JD a game, who's the owner of the shop, and we had a lovely time. I must admit, I absolutely smashed him and did not feel one bit guilty for that. But
that can happen.
Yes, we had. Yeah, I mean, JD's a good player, right? He's literally, he owns a game shop. So I did not hold back. But we had a lovely time, and we ended up with a 2 against 2, 1,500 points aside battle, and I was kind of the referee, the moderator, or whatever. But actually, I enjoy doing that, to be honest. So it's again, Clem, it's the same idea. We had one experienced person aside and one new person. And it worked really well. And we've got such a nice local games group. They're such nice people that they're all doing the right things of, as I said earlier, asking questions of your teammate and not just playing both armies. Let them roll the dice every now and again or something. It's like we're really trying to involve these new people. So that was really great. I have run another gaming day as well for Kings of War at Quest Hub. I've got to be honest, it's at this point now it's all blurring into one, but so it's going really well. I mean, again, it's the summer, people are on holiday, but we do have a lot of new players, nice guys, and we've got a new halfling player, for example. So yes, it's going really.
And so you said they carry Mantic, like they have Kings of War models for sale in the shop now, right?
Yes, they've got. I mean, it's a very thin selection, but they do have. So they have, for example, they have a Ratkin Mega Army box.
Right.
Then, and this is just off the top of my head, dear listener. They've got, I think, probably a Dreadball box. They've got. Sorry, Clem. I'm tired. What's the skirmish game in Panathor called again?
Vanguard.
Vanguard. They've got the Vanguard's 2-player starter box. They've got quite a bit of Armada. So there is quite a bit. There's actually quite a lot of Armada. There's an Armada section.
Right.
There's quite a lot.
I'm asking because I'm curious about, how does it go after you do the demos, or like when you have new players like this, like, it's a whole journey between someone who would, agree to play a demo game and say, oh yeah, that was really fun. And then what happens next, right? Like, do they buy some miniatures, and do they get through assembling them? And do you see them the next time there's a gaming day? Or did you find a good solution to, bring them back in to help them with assembling some of the models if they're really beginning with the hobby, and then painting the first 500 points or 750 points ambush army and so on and so forth? Because you seem to have like a lot of demos and a lot of new players, and so I'm curious to hear about your impressions about how your funnel of new players is going, and at what point can I play 2,300 points with these people?
So we're not there yet. So I would say we've done a lot of the stuff we talked about on the podcast, right, Clem? So the first thing is my 700 points of Ogre's army just lives in the shop with the army list, right? Nice. So anyone can borrow that when they want to. So the first thing we aim for is either 500 points or 700 points. So people are welcome to borrow my models. They do typically. I mean, we have a really good hit rate from demos given to people join and buy models. So they are at the moment. We probably have about 10 people building armies, right? And they're at various stages of experience and various stages of how that's going. A local friend has nearly finished 2,300 points. We might have some empty bases or some paper bases, but the army is nearly finished. So we're getting there, Clem. I mean, the next step really is, we should organise really a 750 point ambush day. I mean, if it weren't for summer, that really should have happened already. To be quite honest with you.
Yeah, please do that, and I'll happily come over.
It's going really good.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear.
Yes,
because it is quite some effort to get your first army done. Especially, I think people who've never done any models, maybe they just don't even think too much about it and they would just get to work with it. I have the impression that a lot of people who've already, done some skirmish gaming and so on and so forth, and are still in the painting mindset of I'll paint every single one model that I paint to the best of my abilities, and I'll try them 5 times if I have to, but they'll be the best ever. I think for them, it's even more daunting, the prospect of painting a whole Kings of War army. And ultimately, I have the impression that a lot of these people just don't really believe they can do it. Do you know what I mean? They're like, yeah, I'll paint a unit and yeah, I'll paint some, but it's so much work. I'll never do it. So why bother? Versus, I'm sure once you reach a milestone and once you've painted your first army, I mean, I remember like from my own perspective, right? Like in my own hobbyist story, that once you finish the first large group of miniatures, you're like, I actually done it. Like I actually can do the stuff. They don't look great, but now they're mine and they're fully painted and it feels great. And now I feel a lot more confidence when I'm tackling the next project. And so I'm obviously still trying to think about what can we as more veteran player do to support a local group in, going through this first hard step. But yeah.
And I think that's a great point, Clem. And actually, when you paint your first army or your first squad of models or whatever, and they won't be great because they're the first things you've ever painted. You'll be lucky if you don't ruin them with just putting on too thick paint. But the sky doesn't fall. Like they may not be the greatest looking models in the world, but they're yours, and that's okay. It's totally fine. No one else minds. Like everything's fine. Just enjoy, have fun with them.
Yeah, and also a lot of the details that you see when you paint them are like the, oh my god, I completely messed this area here, or I'm not so happy with that particular color choice, and so on and so forth. Once the army is done and you start playing games with it, you kind of forget about all of this, right? And all that remains is, yeah, I've painted an army, and I remember when I was doing this and that, and like it really crossing this finish line is massive. And I think there's a job for us, to help our local groups and the newcomers or people who have not painted a massive army yet, to get there. And because it's also in our own interest to have more people to play with after.
That's definitely right, buddy. But actually, one of the when I've been talking to possible new players about which armies they might like, I mean, basically they have a look on the website on their phones, have a look and see what looks cool, because obviously that's super, super important. But for example, there was a local guy, a really nice guy, who, he's already said, I don't like painting. I don't want to do paint, which is obviously not ideal. But he was looking at halflings and he was looking at ogres. So I was like, okay, well, if you don't like painting, I would highly recommend ogres, because you're going to have to do a lot less painting and it's a lot more forgiving. So there's something that definitely happens in terms of the conversation that we have, right, to get new players in, to make sure that we're minimizing the downside and maximizing the upside for new players, right? So yeah, but it's going well, buddy. And it feels like it's been a while since I've played Kings of War. I've played Antares, I've played Dread. The summer's been in the way. I've played Firefight now as well. But I've got a game scheduled next week, which is going to be 2,300 points, which is going to be my first practice game for Clash of Kings. And I've asked my friend to bring. You
also have 6 games, or is it 5 or 6 games scheduled for 2 or 3 weeks from now?
Exactly, buddy. Exactly. So it's about 3 weeks' time, and I think I've got 2 troops of snow foxes in my list. But I haven't got any fly, and everything else I think everything's basically infantry, Clem. I've done that on purpose, and I'm getting very nervous now because, as you know, I'm not a particularly good player, and you have to be a good player if you don't have speed, I think. Speed forgives a lot of sins.
Depends on your objective. If you are aiming for the wood spoon, no, you don't.
I'm slowly shuffling towards the wooden spoon. But actually, I played a few games of 2,000 points with Andrew before the holidays, before we broke up for the holidays. And I've got to say, I mean, it was playing as the Northern Alliance against the Night Stalkers, so 2 fighting armies, but I was having some pretty crushing victories. I wasn't losing much, and I was killing a lot because I've got quite a sort of healy Northern Alliance list. So as long as I play, I'm careful with my positioning, which I'm not at the best of time. But I think actually, if you gave this list claim to a good player, I think they would be really strong. Because I think
being
they can
slow
mitigate
is
the
not.
weaknesses of it, which I'm not sure I can.
Yeah, it's not always an issue. It's just you need to be very good at deployment. Because if the fast stuff you have in your army, like the bulk of your army is like speed 6, whatever, and maybe you have snow foxes here and there, but it's just kind of distractions. If you don't place them in the right spot on the table, they will never get where you need them. So I've learned that the hard way with my undeads and the Soul River infantry. Like I have 2 regiments in the 2,000 point list. And if I'm careless with how I place them on the table, like in the deployment phase, they never do what they need to do for me to just come out on top. And on the other side, if I place them in a smart way, like in the right location for the scenario and the rest of my list and whatever the opponent has in their list and kind of what I can anticipate they might do, then they actually do their job and they are very scary in what they can achieve.
Yeah, exactly, Clem. And that's pretty much why I enjoyed playing the Trident Realms so much, because if you play, they have very, very specialized units which will be good at one thing and one thing only, but I really enjoy that kind of, they have an incredibly high ceiling, but if you misplace something, the house of cards will collapse very, very quickly. If you got something slightly in the wrong position, it's very unforgiving, and the whole thing will just go down. It's not quite so much with my Northern Alliance. I think I should be able to use things like regiments of dwarves as chaff if I need to. I think it's just, I found it really fun to play.
No, it is definitely a very different army to your Trident Realm, and so it must be also a good change of scenery in a way for you and your gaming experience.
Yeah, totally, buddy. And I'm really happy with how it looks. So I will be really, really happy to get it out at Clash of Kings and show it off. And it looks exactly like a Northern Alliance army,
That's a good sign.
But I'm happy with it. Yeah, exactly. Cool. What about you, buddy?
I've played. We've done a very quick, very informal gaming day here in Berlin a week ago, I want to say 2 weeks ago now, and I brought my goblins because that's the only thing that was not packed away in boxes, because I'm doing renovation in the house and it's a big chaos. And so I played, I think I've already played this matchup, like again, Ratkins, and my opponent made a couple of mistakes here and there, and my dice were hot. And it was a bit too, how can I say it? I basically was tabled by the end, and it's not so nice. And so that made me think. Well, one reason is, I think, also because he built a different list. Like, he's really a Ratkin big fan and always plays Ratkin, but he always changes his list. Versus my goblin list is the one that I built mostly because I wanted to have squigs on the table, and I ended up taking to the GT in Poland. So that means I've played at least a dozen of games with this exact list, and that gives me quite a big advantage as well. So I think next time I need to find a way to make it more fun, because I think it was starting to get frustrating for my opponent, and that's never what you want to see. When they kind of give up, or is like, yeah, okay, there's no way, how can I deal with this and that and this and that, and I don't know. So it was still an interesting game otherwise.
The point, Clem, is when you feel like you don't have any agency, or you feel like there's nothing you can do, and that's why I'm so negative about 40k so often, is I feel like I lose games, nothing to do with player skill. It's just stuff gets shot off the board and you can't do anything about it. There's nothing I could have done. I couldn't have positioned things better or used a clever tactic, or there's nothing I could have done. It's just the brutal reality of just dice grinding me out.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think what I thought about afterward, I said, next time you play my goblins and I play your Skavens or your Ratkin. I said Skavens because it's an old metal 4th or 5th edition, whatever fantasy battle, old models. But anyway, so I said, yeah, maybe, but I really like my rats, so I'd rather, figure out how to use them properly against your goblins. But yeah, it still made me think. It is also a bit of a question because I play Kings of War every time I get the occasion. So now compared to a lot of the local players, I have a bit more experience with the game, and very often I also have more experience with my own army and my own lists, because my usual way to approach a new army is I come up with a concept for a list, write a list, and then I make this army, and then I don't change the list, and I play this list 5, 10, 20 times if I can. And someone who's a bit new to the game and doesn't really know how their own list works or how mine even works, it can be a bit frustrating for them, I think. And so yeah, I need to figure out how to keep it fun for everyone involved.
Good point, Clem. Yeah, that's a really good point. So by the time you're playing new players, you really know what you're doing with this list. And Kings of War is a game, it's quite hard to let the Wookiee win, if you know what I mean. It's
I mean, the one thing that I've done, for example, for demo games like 750 point lists, I wrote a not so good, like kind of fluffy but not so good goblin list. And then it is very challenging for me to get anything out of it. It's like 4 regiments of rebels, which are basically useless speed bumps, and then a few things around it. And that works because the list that I play looks cool on the table, like it's a good opponent for other armies. And it's really not such a good list. Like it just doesn't really do much. So I have a good time because it is a challenge, and I know before I even start it's going to be a struggle in this game, but it's actually fun. And the opponent, like even if they are still a bit new and still figuring out the concepts about what you need to do in the game of Kings of War to do well, it gives them a bit of an advantage. And every time I've done that, it worked out great. The problem I have now is when I play my 2,300 points lists, which so far I've always built a bit more competitive. Like I've never built nasty lists, right? Although I had 4 regiments of Scorch Rings, so who am I to say?
Never knowingly.
It always comes from a good place. My heart is in the right place, and so on and so forth.
Do you remember that, Clem? Do you remember that time I won that Dead Zone?
Right.
To gaming day I organised.
Please just
and the guy,
easy.
And then the guy from the rules committee leaned in and just went, filthy. Sorry guys, I was not aware that with my disgusting nameless list. Oops,
I did not
is
realize.
Right. But it sounds that's good. So basically, you're setting yourself a handicap, is what you're doing there, Clem. I applaud you.
Yeah, for the demos, and then I need to figure something out also for 2,300. But I think also in Berlin we're ripe now for another, ambush event. Because the table next to us, there were 2 reasonably new players, also playing 750 points, and they had a great time. Like they were still not very comfortable with the rules because it was like their 3rd game ever or something, and they don't play very often, so they tend to forget. But still, no, I think we're on track for doing another event, and I want also to organize again before the end of the year gaming day, Kings of War or Firefight, or both gaming day in Berlin, and try to bring in people from out of town. So yeah, no, that's cool stuff going on.
Sounds really good, buddy.
Yeah. Are you working on?
I suggest November?
I think that
November. I might be able to swing it.
Yeah, we should actually put something in the calendar, but we can talk about it off the air. But yeah, are you working on anything at the moment for Kings of War, or what are your projects?
So I've bought some Trident Realm ambush boxes. I also have some Night Stalkers boxes, which I think I'm probably going to do for firefight.
So these ones you didn't buy?
Models kind of sprinkled in.
It's funny
these ones, no, I.
Well, no, so I bought these ones, and these ones
story.
I raided the shop at night.
But yeah, well, actually, it was more I bought them possibly a year ago or 6 months ago or something. But the the cost of delivery to Europe is since Brexit. So I got them delivered to my parents' house. So I picked them up from there, if that makes sense, Clem.
I see.
So I had previously purchased them, but it somehow feels a little bit different. So I've got loads of things I could possibly do. At the moment, I'm actually painting up some models for Dread, because me and Caleb are going to have a little mini campaign, which is I'm very much looking forward to. I'm going to play the Cursed Earth Mutants. Just to be a little bit different there, Clem. And I've painted up some civilian models, so we're going to have some kind of we're going to make some custom scenarios. So, for example, his Justice Department, his judges, they might be looking for evidence, so they might have to interview the townspepeople for evidence, and they might go crazy, and because everyone's basically mad. So because they might be trying to work out who the murderer was, or a member of my gang is the murderer, or something like this, and perhaps I can try and assassinate the witnesses, or something along these lines, Clem. So super looking forward to that, and with all the Dead Zone and Firefight terrain I have, boy, can I make a nice looking Dread board.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, but and I think when I finish this, I'll crack on with my Marauders, and then we'll have to see, buddy. I mean, I'm going to Clash of Kings in about 3 weeks. I can imagine Trident Realms are going to be my army again for next year. I could easily see that happening, and I'm already thinking I'm going to stick with the kind of wintry theme, because I want my Trident Realms to be kind of allied with the Northern Alliance. I want them to be kind of friends, hence the Ice Naiads,
Oh,
that was kind of the link. Yeah, exactly. So I thought they could be on friendly terms, and that style of baiting is super fun to do and super easy. So it's like, hey, why throw out a good, onto a good thing here? Why not keep with it? And Clem, you mentioned traveling to GTs. I think it's okay for me to mention it. It's likely the Germany GT, or at least a big German tournament is back next year. It's likely.
Yeah,
I think I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah, I definitely want to do that. I've seen also our friends in Hamburg. So it's like day trip from Berlin. They have an event later this year. And I was chatting with the organizer, and he said, oh, yeah, if you guys want to come from Berlin, you should sign up soon, because last time we sold out. Like, oh. So they sell out 18 seats for their events. I mean, it's 18, it's not 70, right? But still, like a few weeks before the event, it's already sold out.
Buddy, sold out.
Yeah, it's already a good number. I mean, I would be very happy if I get 18 seats in the Berlin event and they sell out. So no, it really sounds to me that there's potential, for a ton of events here and there, and we just have to hear about them and make the effort of traveling over the weekend. But I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too, buddy. I mean, I could imagine us next year. I don't think it's inconceivable next year we could do 18 in Frankfurt, to be honest. But what I wanted to say was, I think it would be a great sign, Clem, if you could actually convince some of the other Berlin players to go to Hamburg for the weekend, because I think that's an issue you've had, right? Is people are happy to play locally, but that's just trying to get them to join the wider community.
It started as a discussion just like that, actually, that people from Berlin wanting to go play and so on and so forth. And I said, well, I'm sure folks in Hamburg have an event soon. Let's have a look what they have. And turns out, yes, they have something. I don't remember the date now. I think might be in November, but it's on T3 anyway, so anyone interested can find the info. You just have to know to look for it, but it's on T3. And so I have actually good hope that I'll manage to bring at least a couple of players, and the other way around, whenever we organize another gaming day in Berlin and kind of advertise it as slightly more than just an internal event, and announce it long enough in advance, and kind of give out rules, or this is how we're going to play, and so on and so forth. I think some people will travel and come visit us. People certainly did that when I did the 10 mil tournament in Berlin, and I see no reason why they wouldn't for 28 mil. And I have the impression that exactly. Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
Clem, just to interrupt you, but shout out to Andrew who travelled up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was really good to see him. And I think we're really at the point where there are actually a good, decent amount of players here and there, and all we need is kind of a spark and a few events to pop out here and there, and then people will see, oh, there are events, and then maybe they can join in or travel and go play, or maybe some people who have read the rules but are like, yeah, I would like to play, but I don't really see anyone playing it, and I'm a bit lazy. If there are events like at least one per month in a reasonable, maybe 2-hour car ride or train ride around you, that means you actually can play pretty regularly, and that might tip some people over the edge to get back into more actively playing the game. So I think we have our agenda set for the next 6 to 12 months. But yeah, it's exciting stuff.
I think you're exactly right, Clem. I think the key is for you is you just need 1 or 2 people to come with you from Berlin and go to Hamburg for the weekend. You'll have a brilliant time. That you'll all come back really excited. Oh yeah, it was really great. And other people will go, oh, that does sound good actually. But at the moment, it's not really a thing. People, there's not an expectation to do it. So I think you just need to do it, convince people once, and then I think it'll just take care of itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it absolutely makes sense. I think it will also help for local events, because every time I go and play some place like in a new location, and I meet new people and I play a bunch of games, first I get exhausted, because it is exhausting, let's be honest. But it also is such a good time. It's like, oh, that's why we do this, And so I think it can be very energizing for people. So yeah, no, that's definitely something I look forward to. And the other thing I look forward to is Forces of the Abyss. That's another topic. We'll hear about them in 3 weeks. You lucky,
It was always
lucky
great,
you.
Clem, particularly when we didn't have many local players here, and luckily that's kind of changing. But I go to an event, whether it was the Germany GT or whatever it was, and I've been in my own little bubble for a year, talking to you about Kings of War. Obviously, as a result, we're making the podcast, but I wouldn't really see anyone else who's passionate about this stuff. And then you walk into a room full of people and you go, oh yeah, these guys also love this random silly thing I love. It's so I don't know how to describe it really, but it's almost reassuring.
Yeah, no, that's reassuring is maybe not the word I would choose, but I don't know which other one I would choose, so we can go with this one. But
no,
definitely,
if I'm
good.
honest, I wasn't massively happy with it myself. Yeah,
we're getting tired. That's all. But yeah, no, it is good for the soul to go to an event and play games. And to be honest, I think the fact that Kings of War is really well balanced and is nice to play with a random stranger really helps massively, because it's almost never that you would have like a rule disagreement, and so it turns into a very nice social interaction with someone you've never met before and with whom you actually share something very close to your heart. So that's a beautiful moment, versus you go to an event and then you argue about rules or whatever, and then you fight to the death. Which that hasn't been my experience with any of the Kings of War events I've been to. So that's that's definitely a positive experience. And once again, we highly encourage listeners to go to their first event if they've never been to one, and don't be scared by it. It's called a tournament. No one really cares about that. Or the people who really care about that will fight for the top tables anyway, and you probably won't end up there, and you'll just end up with the rest of us having a good time. So don't worry about it.
Exactly. Yeah. And actually, Clement, we're really meandering now. We're sorry to do this, and we are tired. One thing I'd still love to do, Clement, is go to the is it the French GT? Somewhere in the northeast of France, I think, near Belgium. I think there's a group. Is it Lille? I always forget.
So there's one in Lille. There was one in Strasbourg not too long ago, which I think is also reasonably close to you. There was a big
not too
one.
Far away. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's still probably 3 hours drive, something like this. I don't know. I would have to look
Strasbourg would be, but I mean, that's totally doable. I know
for a weekend, it's not crazy.
I'd love. Oh, not at all, buddy. Not at all. And I'll be honest, buddy. I'd love to be in France with you. That'd just be great.
I'll babysit you. Don't worry. I'll get you good food, and I'll protect you from my people.
You'd just be saying to the waitress, "L'anglais," pointing at me. Just.
And for that guy, just bring the leftover food.
Why does your food look so nicely cooked, and why is mine so badly burnt? Oh, that's a local speciality, Chris. Eat it.
Yeah. It's just they boiled random stuff for you. They know you're British. It's fine.
They boiled that for 6 hours. Eat it, that cabbage. Perfect.
Well, boiling for 6 hours can actually be good. No, they boil it for just the wrong amount of time.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
whatever cooking techniques and timings makes food bad with no nutrients. Right. That's how we cook it in England. Yes, Perfect. Yes. Well, first thing, we put it in a tin. We put it in a tin and ship it across the oceans. Anyway, Clem, we are tired now, aren't we? Let's be honest. So, hey, should we do some listener questions? And having read the listener questions, I have no confidence we're going to answer these in an entertaining way. But should we do our best?
Yeah, go for it. Read them aloud, and we'll try to answer.
Let's see where we go. So, friend of the pod, Tom Friedman, friend of the Todd. That's not right. So
maybe
has
he
asked
is.
Us. Yes. Instead of rewriting rules for the existing competitive scene in the 4th edition of Kings, why don't Mantic concentrate on building the identity of the game with some more unique models and fluff to fill the gaps in the list rosters? In short, do we even need a new edition? That's a great question, actually, Clem.
I think it is a very nice question. Have
you got something prepared? Or go for it.
No, in a way, I agree. 4th edition is not very much something I'm looking forward to, because I think Kings is already in a good place in a way. And I despise the clockwork of GW. Every 3 years you get a new edition, because I don't think they do that for the players. They do that for the shareholders. So that part is annoying. To be fair, though, to Kings of War 4th edition, I think there are a few elements of the games, and I mean, we've talked about it. Countercharge also had some discussions about it, right? There are a few things that could be modified or could evolve in Kings of War that you kind of want to do when you do an edition change. And I mean, the RC also mentioned exactly this, right? When they do the yearly cycle of rules updates, they're on a tight schedule. Like they only have a limited amount of time when they can actually, do deep work because they need to balance everything. And then there's maybe new models or new armies that come out and so on. And so the time to actually dive deep into, more fundamental issues or fundamental things they would want to address, it just doesn't work on the yearly schedule. And the only time when they can do that type of work is when you do a new edition. And I kind of want to argue that building identity of the game might actually take to doing a 4th edition. I'll give you just one example. I have no idea if that's something they will do in the 4th edition, but I feel like army building, like the rules for army composition, could use some change. And that's kind of a massive change. And so you can only do that when you do a new edition, I think. So yes, to not, just following the most vocal competitive, like ultra competitive community on Fanatics, because they represent 0.2% of people who actually play the game. But I think even all of the other players can benefit from a 4th edition if it's done with the right mindset and with the heart in the right place. And I have no doubt that the RC and Mantic as a company, yes, they're a company, but still, when they do something, I don't have the impression that they do it against my interests, if that makes sense.
It does make a lot of sense, buddy. I think you've answered the question really well. I mean, I would say as well, regarding the missing, the file not found units that Kings of War still has a lot of them, but I think actually Mantic are doing a decent job of going through those and dealing with them. I mean, a big part of the reason, though, there are these kind of placeholder units which Mantic haven't made models for. I think in a lot of cases it's not necessarily Mantic haven't got round to it, it's just they wanted to play your Warhammer Fantasy army with Kings.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of entries, there's just no question. You can even tell which fantasy, like a Citadel model, is intended for this entry, right? It's just no question.
Exactly. So I think, genuinely, I think all that stuff at this point can and should, in my opinion, be cleaned up.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think at this point, Kings of War is its own thing. And yes. I think we should be confident enough. And at this point, yes, it's lovely. You can come and try playing Kings of War with another army. But, let's be grown up. Yes, Ronnie would rather you come and play Kings of War with other models, but Mantic make lovely models. There's, they're reasonably priced as far as models go. At this point, I think we should be purchasing Mantic, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And so, I think the game
or at least
should
not have expectations
on that assumption.
Yeah, or at least not have expectations that if you have an army that is 15 years old because you used to play Lizardmen in 8th edition or whatever, and then you have skinks in your army, and that there should be a profile in Kings of War for them. Like, no, they just nope. They don't exist.
Exactly that, Clem. Exactly that.
That's it.
Yeah. And I think I think turning around and angrily complaining on Facebook Fanatics or whatever that's gone away. I think actually we need to look at ourselves at that point. There's a certain amount of entitlement. I just think is unreasonable. So think, and actually I think things like theme lists, to me, they never made any sense. So I would, for me, a 4th edition is just as we've said, and we've talked about it many, many times. What this looks like, I'm not really sure, but just logically cleaning up and almost putting the game into, how it's structured, not necessarily the rules, but just kind of how the game is structured, just putting that into a fresh perspective and just doing that in a logical way.
Yep, no, I agree. And I think it's still important to keep the door open to model agnostic, or if you want to proxy stuff, or you're in the process of building your first army or giving this a try with models you already have. Of course, sure, you're welcome, but don't expect that every single one of your models that you have will have a profile in Kings of War. It's the other way around.
Clem.
These are the Kings of War profiles and armies, and that's the theme. Then maybe look in your existing collection what can fit in there. But if you have stuff that fits nowhere, well, it's on you. It's not on Kings of War.
Exactly, Clem. And actually, I think that has been a negative, or people have perceived that as a negative when they look at the Kings of War army list and they're a little bit disappointed. I think it gives people, rightly or wrongly, the impression that Kings of War is kind of it's a rule set to use your other armies, but it's not. It's a hobby all of itself, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And I think we should be confident enough to go with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it always sucks when you invalidate people's army. I get that. But yeah, you have to walk this thin line between keeping everything ever that happened and just infuriating everyone with the army. And I think they've done a decent job at that. Like the Twilight King change was massive, and a lot of people cried out because where do my chariots go? Well, in the old world, maybe where they came from. I think that for me, even if it's not from a competitive perspective, is maybe a good reason to invest a long-term effort into making a 4th edition. and then hopefully not have another 5th edition 3 years later for selling more books. But we know that's not how Mantic operates anyway, so I'm not too worried.
No, it's not. And Clem, in the defence, I think it's already been 4 or even 5 years since the last edition. Since the
third edition was December 19, I think, right? I think, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure third edition was December. November or December 19, something like that. I'm probably wrong.
But, it's going to be at least another 6 months, and probably, let's be honest, it's probably a year away. So if the Clash of King book, the annual update to the rules, if that drops in September, I would expect a new edition to probably drop then as well, would be my guess. So that would still mean 4th edition is a year and a half away.
I would say so. Yeah, that would be my expectation, right? Like the 4th edition would drop in fall of 25, something like this. Like we get another Clash of Kings book that will come out. Well, usually they don't have it available for Clash, right? It's later in the year.
It comes just after. So Clash is usually the last tournament with the old rule set, which I really like.
Yeah,
because I think if it was the first tournament with the new rules, it would be a different thing entirely. A bit more of a Wild West.
It's well organized this way, I think. And shout out to Steve for putting the efforts to organize Clash of Kings. It's always a massive endeavor. So, but yeah, no, I think it comes at a good time in the calendar with the releases, and I would expect 4th. We'll hear about it obviously sometime in 25, and it would come later, like a year and a half or so, I think. But yeah, next question. There are actually 3 questions, and they are pretty hard. You can read them aloud, and then we can have no idea.
Okay. So this is from Mark Peter Wheeler. Mark Peter Wheeler, we are so sorry. We're going to do really badly with these great questions. So, question 1: where do Teratons go when teleporting?
Well, I have a very easy answer to that one. I think they go directly where they want to go, right? Like they go nowhere. From what I understand, at least, it's kind of like a mini wormhole. I think they mentioned stuff like this in the Night Stalker, in the Warpath Night Stalker fluff. That the crazy scientists who wanted to, do faster travel.
Faster than light travel.
Right. Initially, they wanted to check with Teratons and try to steal some of that stuff, like inspire from it. And then they did. It didn't work out, and then they reinvented it on their own. But what I took away from that was, Mason Labs are not good at torturing Teratons, because it sounds like that if there's a species that can teleport on a Dreadball football, Dreadball gaming field, I would imagine that a massive corporation can convince them to, figure out how to do that. I don't know. But anyway, so I guess Teratons, they go directly at their destination when they teleport, and that's by definition what teleporting is. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that sounds really good. So what you're saying is it's the plot of the film Event Horizon. Did you ever see that, Clem? Event Horizon?
I'm not sure.
It's got an all-star cast. It's got Sam Neill on it. You know, the guy from Jurassic Park. He's amazing. Okay. He's a New Zealand actor. He's amazing. And it's also got Lawrence Fishburne in it.
Okay.
And a bunch of other people. And so Sam Neill is, this is exactly one of the films I would make you watch, Clem. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those.
Let's do this. Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
Yeah.
And then
it's really good. Okay, Clem, my birthday's coming up. That is the film we have picked for my birthday. It's so good.
Let's do it.
It's really good. Like how, Ghost of Mars was also very, very good.
It was a good start.
Is fantastic.
Yeah. Nice. But so, do you agree with my interpretation that Mason Labs should have tortured Teratons a bit more, and Teratons go nowhere when they teleport except their destination? Sounds reasonable to you?
Yes, and it sounds reasonable to the dear listener as well. They're nodding vigorously. Super. Well done, Clem. You've got us out of a hole yet again, Clem. Okay, so can you get us out of this second, even trickier hole? So question the second. Can the plague be affected by Night Stalkers? So I'm going to guess, Clem, I'm just going to speculate wildly. So when the Night Stalkers are in their kind of nightmare form, when they're in this dimension, I'm going to speculate that they can be, but maybe in their own dimension, maybe they can't be. What do you think?
Well, it depends what you mean by affected, right? I would have understood it as plague armies,
Infected,
plague monsters.
I suppose.
Well, the Night Stalkers don't really infect you, do they? I mean, yes, they eat your soul.
No, but could the plague
the void or something?
No. So, but it's the other way around, isn't it? Could the plague infect a Night Stalker?
Well, that's the question. The next question, if you look at it, I think.
Sorry.
There are two questions. Yeah. One is, can the plague get nightmares? And I would say no. I don't think plague still has a brain and could get nightmares. It's unclear yet. I don't think there has ever been any discussion about some sort of a hive mind of the plague, like a centralized sentience to the plague. Like it's more each individual kind of organizes with their neighbors, and some of them are zombies and some of them are plague lords. So they retain a different.
Kind of hints, for plot reasons, Clem, I think it does hint that there is a bit of this, because we know that the plague has, I don't want to say has intelligence, but it seems to be coded to deliberately infect, for example, skilled GCPS guys. So, for example, Strider pilots are more likely to get infected than just normal grunts, or, you know, someone that can fly a spaceship is more likely to get infected. Yeah, it's more likely to infect useful people than, you know, just zombies. Although obviously there's plenty of them too. So yeah, possibly, I'm going to say.
Yeah, it's not entirely impossible, I would guess, but I have the impression that the plague is either too mindless or too strong-minded to really have nightmares from the Night Stalkers. I don't know. Like maybe they're two competing forces on a poor GCPS dude. Who knows? I'm not so sure. I need to read more fluff about it, or we need to refer to our fluff experts.
We need to read more. Yes, definitely. We need to ask, and also we need to ask the kind guys at the Mantle podcast who hopefully are listening.
Right, absolutely. And then so the other question,
guys, please help us out.
Yes,
we'll read it out in the next episode.
Absolutely. So can the Night Stalkers get plague mutation? That I would also say seems unlikely to me, because I don't think the Night Stalkers have like an actual biology and so on. It's not too clear to me though. Like how do they manifest in our world, like in the Warpath universe?
Yeah, do they have kidneys and livers and neurons?
Or, do they bleed?
Yeah.
Do they have?
I think Andrew, if it bleeds, we can kill it. I think Andrew will know the answer to this if he's listening. Please help us out again on the next pod. But also, Clem, the other thing to mention is that, of course, famously, the Marauders cannot be
infected by plague.
Infected with the plague.
Yeah. Yes.
No, and they're obviously a sentient thing with kidneys and
so
lymph nodes and whatever.
Something else going on here, but I don't know. I think it is an interesting set of questions, though, to figure out how you structure stories between the now two big antagonists in the Warpath universe, right? Because Plague was kind of like the poster child antagonist. Like a lot of stories revolve around Plague or interactions with Plague and so on and so forth. And now there's Night Stalkers on top of that, and so I think it will be helpful to have like
apocalyptic level.
Yeah, enemies. I hope they tone it down a little bit on the Night Stalkers, because that was, I think I've mentioned it already, that was my first impression. It's like, oh, if you just hear about it, you're screwed, and therefore, like, the whole of GCPS will fall in 2 years. That's like, whoa. Keep calm. Like, please don't do that to our universe. But still, I think having some canon ideas, like some, directing guidelines and, key elements reasonably well defined in a few short stories or a few novels here and there is interesting. Also for your games, to come up with cool stories and cool scenarios. So I hope people in the know will tell us how it is, and if not all of this is defined yet and exists yet, I hope we will see cool short stories that come with options and opinions about how all of this works. So yeah.
there was a really fantastic line by Joss Whedon, sadly disgraced, but he can write some good sci-fi stories in his past, and he kept being asked questions about how fast is the spaceship in Serenity, right? So people were trying to work out how long it would take for them to travel these distances, and the physics of it, etc. And his answer was something along the lines of, it's exactly the speed of plot. It goes exactly. The spaceship goes as fast or as slow as it needs to make sense for plot. But that's completely, when you're telling a story, that is completely the way to do it, right? You're not obsessing about these details that to some people do matter, but to most people absolutely don't matter. No one's interested how fast the Millennium Falcon goes, except it's 5 parsecs or whatever the silly line was. But you're just making a cool sci-fi story. That's all that matters, right? It's we can forgive. Yes, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Okay, I think we did slightly better than I was expecting with those questions, buddy. So should we move on to we've got a sort of a short Clem, you saved us there, as you often do. We've got a kind of a short topic of the month, and it's something I wasn't sure I really wanted to ask on the pod, but on the other hand, I very much want your feedback, Clem, and I'd like the listeners' feedback too, actually. I think it's an interesting one. So topic of the month for this month is, I'm calling it standing on other people's toes. So Clem, I'm going to give you a real life scenario that happened fairly recently. I'm going to omit key details, but I'm just going to give you the gist of what happened, and then I just want your feedback, right?
Sounds good.
So there is a gaming club in roughly East Frankfurt. Now, they've got a Discord server, which I've been on for ages, don't even know, 3 years or something like that. I'm not active on it, but I've been on it. Now, to get support for local Kings of War players, I've been writing. They do have a fantasy and even a Kings of War Discord. Is it called a page? I don't even know.
A channel.
Thread.
Yeah,
channel. That's the word. Thanks, Clem. Channel. Yes. So, I have been posting on there very friendly messages like, hey guys, we're meeting at Quest Hub to play Kings of War. If you guys are interested, why don't you come join us? Or, we had a game, here's some pictures. It would be great if you could be there next time. These kinds of things, because obviously I want to build the local community, right, Clem?
Yeah, and also you want to steal them paying members, right?
Right. So this is the issue. So some people have kind of said, yeah, that sounds good, but actually haven't so far joined us. But the chap who organises it has taken exception to this. He doesn't, and Clem's seen the chat, although obviously I won't share it wider, but just to say Clem's got the full details. He's the chap who organises the club is very unhappy because the way he perceives this is he sees it, as you said, Clem, is I am trying to steal their members for a different club. He sees it as basically a rival. And I've got to be honest, Clem, I don't see it that way. I don't see why they can't come and play with us. A couple of weeks later, we can go to their club, play with them, heck, maybe even join their club as well, and grow a community together. We're pretty close together. I don't see why we would keep those things separate or why they're mutually exclusive, Clem. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it depends on some people and what mentality they have. I think maybe some people take it a bit too seriously, like it's my club, like I rule over this dominion. And anytime someone tries to bring people from the dominions elsewhere or come in here, they're disturbing my kingdom. I mean, the way I talk about it already tells you how good I feel about that. But I guess there could be a limited amount of justification if they've been trying to run the club and been paying some of the stuff or some of the expenses out of pocket, and they've been struggling to retain people to keep showing up and keep paying membership dues. And so they might see in a bad light anything that gives them the impression that some of the people will stop coming and stop paying the membership dues, or kind of not go in a way that will grow what they've been trying to work on. But I don't know, like in Berlin, we have several clubs. Like I don't even know all of them, obviously, because there are different degrees of that, right? Like the The main one that I'm part of is explicitly trying to be as big and as widely open as possible. And although there's a formal organization behind it, it's mostly an informal community on Discord with hundreds and hundreds of people. And then you have several much smaller groups, but that actually have actual physical space where they can meet up and play. Some of them are open to new joiners, but to various degrees, I would say. Like some of them have very specific rules. Like you're welcome to come play with us, but if you follow very precisely these sets of rules, like these are our conditions and are not negotiable. One example is one of such clubs, they will not let you play with unpainted miniatures. And you can debate or think whatever you want about this. Like I'm not a big fan of this policy. I think it's kind of an exclusive one. Exclusive is the wrong term, but it's one that excludes people. But I can understand why.
You just want experienced wargamers, I guess, Clem.
Yeah,
really.
in a way.
They don't want fresh meat.
Yeah, but I think I can understand where that comes from as well, right? Like it gets old when I don't want to play with gray armies. Long story short, like I'm very happy sometimes, to try a new army or try something, and I would use like the dirtiest proxy ever, like empty MDF bases. I've done it, and I'm happy to do that on occasions. Or I'm happy when someone is a newcomer to have an army that isn't fully painted yet or even not started yet. And at the same time, I would feel just dragged down if a regular person coming to play every week or something never ever had a single painted miniature, because ultimately, if that's the case, it looks like you are missing out on a big part of the hobby, and it kind of impacts my enjoyment of the game as well. So I can understand the policy. What I'm not a big fan of is how extreme it gets. But anyway, so to get back on the clubs and being open, I've seen more the other way around, where people don't necessarily want you to join, not that you will take their members away. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird reaction, I would say. I have the impression also that whoever runs that club doesn't own the players, right? So I don't know. It's really a weird reaction, I think.
That's kind of the feeling I had actually, Clem, as well. I mean, as I kind of said, I mean, my idea is that let's grow together, rather than stay in our little boxes. I think it's kind of disappointing to have a different attitude, but that's such as it is. One thing that did make me laugh actually was his first selling point for playing at his club was they have air conditioning. That was the first.
Yeah, I mean, it is a good thing to have.
Air conditioning is good.
It's a good thing to have, I don't know. I mean, then it depends a bit on the fee. I think I have now 2 memberships in clubs in Berlin, but that's also maybe because I'm what can I say? I have too much money, right? So I'm fine with giving €5 here and €5 there to support a group of people paying whatever expenses they have to keep operating. I can understand that for some people it's a lot tighter, and so they cannot be paying a membership on this club and on that club at the same time, and so ultimately they have to make a choice. And so if you are the guy trying to run the organization and doing all the chores, sending all the reminders to the members, hey, please pay your due, or hey, do this, hey, that, like it's a thankless job to run this type of structures. I kind of understand the frustration, but then it really sounds counterproductive as well, because as you said, look, if you have something that comes and advertises here, I would see it more as an opportunity for growth. So like, oh yeah, those are already people, as you said, right? Like maybe we'll go play once there, but then they can also come play here, and maybe ultimately they'll join us rather than leave us or something. So
exactly, buddy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And surely you need fresh enthusiasm coming into the club, right? You need that surely because I do think whether we know it or not, I do think with gaming groups, if you're not growing, you're kind of slowly dying. To be honest, I think.
Even with the best intentions,
to be on the lookout. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's always stuff that happens, right? Like someone moves out to the other side of the country or the other side of the city, or whatever, life happens to them, and so your group of 6 people who met at least once or twice a month to play over time will diminish in size. There's just no way this would happen any other way, right? This is the way things are. And so if you're not open to bringing in new people or like actively hiring new people into your group, ultimately the group dies. This is how it is, no question. But I don't know. I think more and more now I'm starting to think about not so much what are we even playing, but who am I playing with and where am I playing? So I don't know. Maybe there's also something to be said around this, right? Like if they think they have their own small group, their small community, and then there are, strangers come in and try to disrupt things, maybe they don't like it. I don't know. Maybe there's a mindset question as well. Like we're both foreigners, like living abroad, right? So maybe we already have this different mindset, and some people just think differently. Who knows? They're wrong, obviously. Yeah. They're it's all right. Like it's allowed.
So, Clem, did I, on a very basic level, is there a chance I did something? Did I do something wrong with air quotes? Was me advertising on their Discord? Is that inappropriate behavior?
I in general, I don't think so. I think what you could have done is first try to understand how they operate as a community, and then you would understand and you would be able to answer the question for yourself. You know what I mean? Like maybe if you're never active in their group and all they saw was a comment, like someone like or a bull in a china shop come in and say, hey guys, you don't know me, I don't know you, but come play something else instead. Maybe that can be seen as a bit rude. I don't know. So
I have tried over the years a couple of times to say, hey guys, does someone want to play Kings of War with me? Something like that. So it's not like I never ever posted it.
I'm not criticizing you. I'm just trying to come up with how could you have done it differently?
I literally asked you to criticize me, so no. Just trying to play devil's advocate and understand.
But yeah, I'm still of the opinion that information, especially this type of information, doesn't hurt, right? Like who in their right mind can think just because you say, FYI, if anyone likes Kings of War or is interested in playing Kings of War, we play it on that location at that time and anyone's welcome and just contact me. How could that information be a bad thing in any scenario, right? Like, I don't know. This part, I agree with you. You intend to make me say there's really nothing wrong with just sharing that info. I don't know. Even if let's say I organize an event in Berlin on a specific weekend, and then someone comes on the Discord and says, hey, on the same weekend, I organize another event. I mean, it's a fact, right? Like if their event is already set up and there's no way they can change the date and so on, well, tough luck. It's just, bad planning, but it's no one's fault. And I consider it a good thing that there are 2 options to choose from, I mean, it's a bit sad if the 2 Kings of War events in the area all happen on the same weekend and then there's nothing for 2 months. That would be a bit annoying, but I wouldn't blame the other person.
Kind of quote unquote failed events instead of one successful one. But
right.
But that's just a question of communication, right? And planning. Hey, let's not do that again. Let's work together more closely. Yeah, the solution to me is in both of these scenarios is work together more effectively, not keep each other apart,
Yeah, just share the agenda as soon as you can. I mean, we sort of have this. I try to, keep an eye on everything that's going on. in the various Kings of War communities, like when are the events, or are they organizing events? And then I advertise their events in my local group, like like there's a Dead Zone Gaming Day tournament coming up in Regensburg again, if I remember correctly. As soon as I have some info about it, I post it everywhere that I haven't seen it announced yet. Because, as you said earlier as well, right? Like the more people go to other events or play to other locations, the more they're ultimately engaged with the games that I enjoy myself, and I think it's a positive. So I don't know. And
I think sorry, Clem, I'll just jump in and say, listen, I think it's super important. The more of us we have playing, the easier it is to get new people in, and that's the lifeblood of the community, right? We always need to be looking to get new, fresh, cool people in.
I would be even more extreme and say I'm not even mad when people go play Saga or the Old World or whatever other game, because I don't see anything wrong with that, I feel it's more rich if people can go play other stuff every now and then. And I'm confident that there will still be people to play Kings of War and Firefight and Dead Zone. And I wouldn't take offense if someone that I regularly play with says, oh, well, these days I don't really want to play Kings of War. Like I'm painting an army, or I've taken an army off of my shelves to play whatever other system, and I'll play Kings of War again at some point. It's perfectly fine to me. I don't know, like I don't feel like they owe me to stay in the game forever. And I would say, because I don't feel that I owe them this. Like I have been painting Necromunda models lately, and I've played one game of Necromunda in the new campaign, and that doesn't mean I'll stop playing Kings of War and Firefight and so on. So I don't know. I think it's
you make a great point, Clem. Obviously, the friendships we make with the gaming make it more likely we're going to stick together as a group. You kind of touched on that earlier when we were talking, but right. Absolutely. And the other thing I would say is that I'm genuinely confident in the rules of Mantic Games that, well, these games are good enough to stick around for. They're worth sticking around for. There are a lot of good games out there, but maybe if we played a game and deep down it wasn't the best game in the world, but maybe we'd be a little bit more sensitive about people trying other things. But I mean, from my perspective, as a Mantic player, I can say, yeah, guys, go and play Saga, go and play, Dread or whatever it might be. They may be great games, but Mantic, I'm 100% confident Mantic make great games. I know they're great games, right? They can compete with fun in the fun test. They can compete with anything. So I think it's healthy, right? We're all gamers. It's very, very healthy to do other things and try things, and it's reassuring that you go, oh yeah, Mantic games are great when you try other things. You've got something to compare it to.
I mean, the other day I was rereading
we're not a cult.
I was rereading the Necromunda rulebook because I played a game just based on memory and it didn't go well. I mean, it was still in a cool game, right? It's just nostalgia is a strong feeling. But then I was reading the rule again and I was like, oh my God, what? And my wife was like, what are you even doing? Like, you sound so upset. And it was like, this rule book is a piece of crap. It's so poorly written. This contradicts that. And this is like taking half a page where it should be 2 sentences and all of this stuff. And, it's very funny. It's exactly like you said, right? Like you can go and see other systems and then you remember why you actually really like the Mantic games, It's like, it's for Necromunda, just to finish on that example, it's very frustrating because I feel like there's a lot of waste. They've like I just bought the latest expansion book they have. Honestly, it should have been 3 pages of a free PDF somewhere, and it was a €40 hardback book with a lot of copy pasta from other books. And anyway. So All I'm saying is it's good if people go play other stuff. I think it's important also if you want to have a healthy gaming group to not just stick on just one thing, but also be gracious. Like if you want to ever have some of your friends or from the gaming club try out your favorite games, well, maybe you should try out their favorite games every now and then. Otherwise, what did you expect, right? And it's not even as okay, I really hate 40k, but if I play a game of 40k, will you play a game of Kings of War? Because I think that doesn't really work this way. But more if you have a more
I
open mindset.
Tried that a couple of times. I bought another World Army and a War Machine Army. I built and painted those things, and there were two different people, and they both turned around and said, "No, I don't want to play Kings of War actually." So yeah, so I kind of did my half, and then they went, "Nah, actually." Yeah. So yeah, I've been burned twice doing that, Clem. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. It probably wouldn't work on everyone, but I'm just getting back to. I think it's more important who you play with and what you play in a way. And it's just saying if you're really too stuck on exactly what you play all the time and are not open at all to other things, you're losing out. You're missing out, I think.
No, you're absolutely right, Clem. The point you're making, sorry, buddy. I just wanted to stick that in there because I've been burned. But you're absolutely right. It's healthy, and that we just keep an eye on other things. And yeah. Absolutely, buddy. And I just want to end actually, Clem, on the note that I'm very positive about, Kings of War specifically, but Mantic in general in Germany. I feel like we are, about to hit another, good time again,
Yeah, I think so too. To me, the next step, like the next thing we need to do is really just run events. Just have, even if it's small things, it doesn't have to be, it's a big tournament with 20 seats or whatever, and the whole thing is just, I'm just in 3 weeks' times or in 2 months or whatever, I'm doing a gaming day with these parameters, and everyone's welcome, and make it known. And I think this is what the community needs these days. And so definitely for Kings of War in Germany, I think firefights in general as well. And we've made the joke, like, do we need a 4th edition? Well, we need players more than a 4th edition. It's not like they're opposite things, but the way to do this is just put stuff on the calendar. So yeah, let's do our part.
Completely right, buddy. Super. Clem, thank you so much. We are tired. We are very tired, but yes. We got through it, buddy. And thanks for joining us to the bitter end, dear listener. We really appreciate it. And thanks, mate. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was fun. And talk to you on a next monthly or on another short. And till next time.
Thanks, dear listener.